Greetings, Battle Brothers. It's me, Aurelia Tempris, Defender of the Golden Throne and Servant of Humanity. Welcome, welcome. I hope you're all doing well today. I just did a leg day. I'm tired. I was like, oh, I have a little bit of time before stream. I can do a workout really fast. Yeah, I'm tired. I'm tired now. Oh, I was gonna set up a redeem. Hang on. I should do that. Redeem for leg day. 1 second. Will take me but a moment. Platforms. Oh. I grabbed a piece of bacon from the fridge. This one is going to be in a new category. Create reward. After workout bacon. It's good for you. Okay. 1 sec. Okay. Alright, I'm thinking it's going to say Aurelia does a leg exercise of her choice. 10 reps. I think that's fair. Should we add anything for if it should be weighted or not? I have to decide. Yeah, no, there's gonna 100% a cooldown. I think we're only gonna do it. Let's see. How many channel points should we make it to? This is important. So cooldown. We need. That's 30. Yeah, it's 3,600 seconds. They do it in seconds. They don't do it in minutes. It's your choice. 5-second cooldown. 1 channel. No. The weight should be your choice. So leg exercise of her choice. Convince her if you want it to include weights. There. That way we can, it's like not just squats and it's not just like lunges or something, and it's like, okay, we can vary it. Also, I'd hate if one was like Bulgarian split squats. I would die. I'm thinking 10,000 channel points. Like ankle weights? No, like dumbbells. I keep my dumbbells in the room I stream in. It's like, this is like my multi-purpose space. So I have like my hobby stuff, my computers, and my weights. So I do like a bunch of stuff in here. Ankle weight, the squats. It could work. It just wouldn't be as effective if you did like no, that wouldn't work. The 30 weight ones, I have a bunch. Actually, I'm really happy. I recently got a weight rack. Like one of the little like triangle ones, like the stand, because I had just the dumbbells on the floor, and whenever I was getting up from stream to like go to the bathroom or something and I was trying to move fast, I would like sometimes like stumble over them. I never fell, but like I stubbed my toe a couple times. I was like, okay, enough of this. I'm buying a weight rack. Got a weight rack. I got it on like a discount, which is good. So now they're all on the rack. So I have, so the ones that are just the straight like regular weights are, I have a 30-pound, 2 20s, 2 15s. I actually bought 2 15s and then 2 10s, but I also have, I have 2 sets of dumbbells that are like, you add like, they're like, hang on, you can like adjust the weight. Hang on. Custom weight dumbbells. Let me show you. They're not this exact kind. Let me save the picture. There we go. browns. I want. Okay, oh, it's so tiny. Okay, this is what they look like. Not exactly, but you can take plates off and adjust the weight, but it was so annoying because I had 2 sets, so 4 of these. But it got really annoying when I was like doing exercises where I needed to like keep the same weight. So like if I was doing like, oh, I have 30s and then I go down to 20s. So originally I would have 1 set at 20, 1 set at 30s, but when you need more than just those 2 weights, yeah, it was frustrating. So currently I have one of them set at like 25. They're in kilograms, so it's like really 26 pounds. And then the other one's at like 12. But I like my new dumbbells because they're a little more accurate. They're a little annoying when you want to like do an exercise or like a routine with a variety of weights, because then you have to keep swapping them out. But they're really useful. So yeah, that's what I have. So I have like a bunch now, but I only have one 30-pound. I'm so happy I got the 30-pound. A friend of my parents moved, and the husband had, I don't know why he just had one. But my dad's like, hey, like my friend, he had like an extra like weight. Do you like want it? Because I already have like 30-pound weights. I was like, yes, please. Because originally I would use my dumbbells and I would make them like 30 pounds. Like it was actually shy of 30 pounds. It was like 28, 29 pounds. I was like, yes, I would love a 30-pound weight, please. So I use that for like my goblet squats because it's like a nice big weight rather than 2 smaller weights. So. Oh, Grave Knight, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm just glad you're able to make it for a little bit. Hang on. There should be a super chat Streamlabs dono redeem. We can look into that. I hate to put things like that like for fun that's like behind a paywall. Like I feel I don't like that as much, even though like it's unfortunate that YouTube doesn't get to do as many like fun things. And yeah, I do want to do a workout cam. I'm dead serious. I want to do a workout cam. Not like a workout stream. It's like workout cam. Workout stream. But some of you say you won't believe me unless I have like 3D tracking. I promise I would do all the exercises. I think the form might suffer towards the end, but I would do it right. Okay, hang on. I need to finish setting up this redeem. Oh, my leg is sweaty. Ew. I sat down and like I just felt a bead of sweat roll down my leg. Ugh. 3D model in the future. I've always wanted to do one. I've actually had the idea to do a workout stream probably ever since I started, or like maybe like a couple months after I started. I'm like, man, that would be so much fun, because I really like I like working out. As much as I like hate it, I like it. I mean, you get it. Okay. Per user per stream once. There we go. Max per stream. We won't have max because we have that. Create. Oh, I didn't put it in some category. Workout. Save. All right. It's there. I'm getting ready to do my reps. Which one of you decides, that's what we're doing. Me. Working out definitely helps with stress. Yes. For sure. All right. Let's see. What did I not do? Okay, so Shadow Revan redeemed it. Let's see. I did squats. I did lunges. I didn't do a pistol squat. Sure. Should I do weights? I feel like I'm just gonna do it anyway. Like, I feel like if I don't do weights, unless I'm like really, really tired. Bulgogi squats, what are those? Does that mean like if I squat enough, I get bulgogi? This is great. This is great. How many squats do I have to do to get bulgogi? Man, I'd hit that every day. Hang on. I haven't done a pistol squat in a while. Let's grab a 15. One sec. Okay. I'm moving the chair. Oh, wow, that is a sweaty chair. Chair has sweat on it. Okay, I'm gonna do 5 each leg. Is that acceptable? Hang on. I'm moving the tracking so you can kind of see my face better. It's upset. It's upset. Okay. Oh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I don't like those. They're not fun. I could have gone heavier, but it's okay. 1. Ooh, hang on. I don't know if you heard that my ankle popped. 1, 2. Form is not great on these. 3, 4. Ooh. Ankle again. 5. Okay. It's hard to do them with good form when I'm trying to make sure that tracking sees me. Yeah. My ankle pops. It does that. It's okay. There you go. I did it. I got a sharp chest pain 2 days after working out. This happened twice, but now I'm fine. This was over a month ago. I hope you rested. And like, were you like lifting something when that happened? Avoid cramps, headaches, nausea, hail, hydrate. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Soul Pelt. I appreciate it. I will hydrate. I need to finish my, my gamer sups. 20% off this week. I put my creatine in it, and I'm currently drinking the flavor Good. It's like a wild cherry. It's cherry and it's yummy, and it makes me think of Code Red without feeling guilty for drinking Code Red. Because for those of you who weren't there yesterday, or Friday, no, that was Friday, I'm trying to drink less Mountain Dew because I have fitness goals I'd like to meet. And unfortunately, I must give up the Mountain Dew. Not completely, I'll have it every once in a while, but you know, I can't have one every day. This is the perfect time. Me when I can't have Code Red. Although I like the way this one looks better. No more Code Red for me. Although, on like a funny note, I was actually talking to my mom. She likes Mountain Dew as well. And she was at a gas station recently. And you know gas stations, they have like the fountains? Well, this one has like touch screen. So if you guys are familiar, if you're in the United States, you definitely have seen these before. They're the Coke Freestyle machines. It's like a touch screen Coke fountain. It looked like that, but they had it like, it was so weird. It was so weird, this at this gas station. It was like, what? Why? The array of like 50 different, not 50, but maybe like 20 different like spigots. I get why they're doing it. It's so much easier to clean, I imagine, but like, still, I don't like it because personally for me, I think fountain drinks are like the best form to have a soda. Like cans are okay, bottles are better, but like fountain is the best. Because sometimes the concentration of syrup to carbonation is a lot better. So, I will say, like, I'm concerned because I wonder if the syrup to carbonation ratio will be off. Because that's like an issue I see a lot with the Coke Freestyle machines when I've used them in the past. They end up not being as good than if you like used a regular soda fountain. So, yeah, I'm a little hesitant. I prefer cans or bottles, really? Huh. Interesting. Literally drank mold once from a restaurant, but look, you're stronger now. You're stronger now for it. No, that's bad though. that's really bad. Fountain machines never get cleaned. Yep. Yeah, I mean, but if they do clean them, I worked at a place where we kind of cleaned it. I don't think we didn't clean the whole thing. I would, like, you know, I don't think we cleaned the whole thing, but it was like we cleaned parts of it. Drinking mold sounds like a death guard practice. Look, Your immune system will thank you. Mm-hmm. If they ever invent a pill to get rid of social anxiety, I'd be at the gym to need gamer subs. My mom has a workout thing she's been going to forever. Wait. No. Okay, so wait, what's your concern about going to the gym? That people will judge you? I'm curious. Because I think that's most people's concern, like going to the gym, that people are gonna judge them. Which, I won't lie. There are people that do that. That they're rude and they'll like judge you. However, I think a lot of people appreciate and can like, I think they at least like give you some amount of approval because they're like, hey, look, this person is here to better themselves. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, there are, my brain says otherwise. I mean, I can understand the hesitation. I totally get it, but I think people are a lot nicer than we think sometimes. But also, you can do a ton of body weight exercises at home. Or be like me, don't go to the gym and just get some dumbbells. But sometimes they're expensive. I look for good deals for weights. And like only recently I got the 15 pounders because I was like, oh, that's a really solid deal. Like, I forget what a good deal. It's usually, typically, at least this was maybe a couple years ago. Perhaps it's updated since then. Usually you pay $1 per pound when it comes to dumbbells, but I try to get it like less than that if possible. So like, yeah, 15-pound dumbbell, you'd ideally want to pay like $15 for it. That's what my dad told me. But yeah, I work out at home. I don't go to the gym. No. I find exercises and routines online, and then I do them at home. Or just buy a bag of dirt. That's true. If I get enough Aurelia merch, maybe I can hit the gym again. Wait, what does that mean? Wait. Wait. Hang on. I need clarification. I need to rep the custodians. You can go to the gym without repping me. That's fine. You could go to the gym without repping me, although I appreciate it. I can't work out at home the same reason I could never work from home. Home is my me time. I guess it's kind of however you think about like working out. I definitely like separating work from home is very important. I would say working out is my part of my me time. It is like something I have to like be honest about and like keep doing on a regular basis, even when I'm tired. Like I was tired yesterday. I ended up taking a rest day. That's unlike me. But like, I consider working out as like my me time. So I don't mind doing it at home. But I can see that. I'm 10 feet from my workout spot so I can watch TV and listen to stream while I hoist. Yes. Very cool. Very cool. I love it. I love it. Okay, hang on. I gotta finish this. I need to drink this right now. Hang on. I have the rest of my creatine in my Gamer Subs cup. I gotta drink it. How much can a skitter bench? Okay. So the skitter is about the size of a small dog. 50 code reds. Oh gosh. That's actually quite a lot. I don't know how much a skitter can bench. I can lift 4 skitters. How much do skitters weigh? I guess small dog would be anywhere, like probably 25 pounds. Ish. That's small dog size, right? Hang on one second. I'm drinking this. I can't chug like a dude. I can't, like... I don't know how you guys do it. You guys can just, like, open your throat and, like, chug a whole water bottle. And I can't do that. I'm just not capable of it. Like, you have to, like, I don't know. How much can I lift? Well, okay, so part of working at home, I don't have, like, a weight rack. Like a big rack. I do not do, like, bench presses and I don't do like standard deadlifts like with a bar, so it's hard to say how much I can actually lift. It depends on the exercise. I don't really go for like the numbers as long as like I'm staying consistent and like staying strong. My favorite exercises involve tires of various sizes, specifically tire flips. Man, for a sport that I did, there was like one workout we did where we were flipping tires, but like because we're girls, we had to have multiple people on one tire because they were massive. And then like the boys team, they were out there flipping whole tires by themselves. They were big tires, but I was like, what the heck? It's really crazy the difference between men and women and how like much stronger men are. It's wild. Like I couldn't even if I tried. The most average dude would still beat me at my absolute strongest. And Aaron, thank you for your 14 months of support. Oh yes, we should all the skitters. Why are there so many skitters? Are we talking about the plushie petition and I just missed it? Where is that link? I saw it and then it disappeared. Lifting skitters. Oh, that's why. Yeah, I think the most I can lift was something like 180 pounds. That's the dude, the flak and his gear. Oh, dang, that's sick. See, yeah, I can't pick up a person like that. Thank you, mods. I appreciate that. Thank you for pinning that. Yeah, no, I can't do that. Like, I could not save someone from a burning building unless they were smaller than me. It couldn't happen. Like, the fireman carry, like, if okay, let's put it this way. If there was someone unconscious on the floor, I could not save them. If they could get on my back, I could probably carry them out. But, like, I cannot save an unconscious person. I couldn't do it. Like, no matter how hard I try, no matter how much I want to, I couldn't do it. It's crazy, man. Dudes are just so strong. How many skitters do you think it would take to pull a person? Depends on the weight of the person, but I would say maybe 2. Adrenaline is one hell of a thing, though. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think in an extreme situation, perhaps, but like, I know my limits, and you know, I would if it was me and that person, and I was the only person I could say, dude, I would do my best. I would do my best, but I'm just saying it would be very, very hard. Yeah, there's a way that you can pick them up, but like, you gotta still, like, getting off the ground with them is like insane. Like, I think I tried picking up my friend one time. This was a while ago. Like, I tried picking them up off the floor, and I was like, oh no, this is bad. This is bad. Just drag them. Well, in some, I mean, in my mind, sometimes in burning building situations, there's debris. Like, if the building is collapsing, you can't drag them. So it's like, you kind of have to pick them up to, like, kind of guarantee you get them out. I Bowflexed 220-pound women once. Wow. That's amazing. I could not. Dang. Yeah, dead weight is super rough. All right, I still didn't finish my drink. Okay, done. Done. I love looking at this model. Oh man, I feel so vain. I mean, I feel better. It's not me. It's not really me. It's... Hang on, I'm pulling up links. I had a video. Incredible. Well, I feel like we gotta watch this one. well, we're definitely gonna watch this. We were gonna do fantasy lore, and so I had a video picked out, and then it's a pancreas video, and apparently he released one on dwarfs yesterday, so we'll watch that too. We're just gonna spam pancreas. We're just be like, it's time for the pancreas. We're just gonna watch his stuff. It's so funny. I didn't know. Okay, full disclosure. So I played Darktide with Pancreas like 3 weeks ago. Oh my gosh, like 3 weeks ago now. And I had no idea he was like 27. His voice like gives more like, it sounds weird. It's like, it sounds more mature. Not that 27-year-olds can't be mature, but like, it sounded like, I don't know, I thought he was like in his like mid to late 30s, which I guess isn't that much of a difference, but I was surprised. I was like, huh. I don't know, it just caught me off guard. Is he considered a Zoomer? Hang on. 27, that means he was born in 1998. Zoomer age range. He is a Zoomer. He is a Zoomer. Oh my goodness. Yeah. 1997 to 2012 is Gen Z. That's funny. Oh my gosh. Huh. I should know that was literally the year I was born in. Don't dox yourself, bro. Those people born 1996, I don't know. Is it better to be considered a millennial or Gen Z? Frankly, I feel like there's like... let me think. He sounds 40. Yeah, he does sound 40. I'm not saying he's old. I would say I feel like millennials get more flack. I feel like I hear more flack about millennials, but like then again, like yeah, I just feel yeah, there's generally more disdain of millennials. Yeah, by all the generations, yeah, all of them. I don't have any disdain. It's just like, it's like, oh, that's just what I hear. As any gen gets older, they will get the boomer treatment. But like, did boomer, like, I don't know. I mean, boomers are boomers. But like, it feels like Gen X, there's like nothing. I've not heard anything about like Gen X. Like, have you ever heard anything bad about Gen X? I don't think so. 1996, my friend doesn't know if he's a boomer or a zoomer. No, okay, your friend is not a boomer. A boomer is like, they're in their like 70s and stuff now. Gen Z is, they're called zoomers because it's like a play on boomer, but Z, so it's zoomer. So they're 1996, they're a millennial, Gen Y. I thought the thing, yeah, Gen X is really good at, I've not heard any, like, any gripes about Gen X, like, I think ever. Gen X is usually the ones being called boomers? No. There's no way. What? No. The boomers are the ones like right after World War II, and they're like that generation is almost done. They're like 70 plus at this point. Yeah, it's because it's called the baby boom, that's why. Huh? Oh man, I don't want to be a millennial. It's okay, we still like you. Don't worry, I don't take any of that really seriously. It's just like, it's more just like a generalization of people born within a certain age range. Like, don't let it define you. Let me, wait. Interesting. Gen Z is like the same as Gen X, but we add humor to it with not giving crap. Yeah. Yeah. Apparently I'm a Gen Y millennial. Yeah, it's like interesting how they split it up. Millennials at least know how to computer. Yeah, I don't really know how to computer. However, like, I take your point and I turn it back on you, because I know people who are Gen Z that, like, can computer. They computer and they computer good. Computer good. Sorry, I'm stretching. Always a little tense after a workout and streaming. In general, I'm tense all the time. But yeah. Feels like a dwarf conversation. You need to go for a massage. Okay, I've considered it. However, I was talking to a sibling. And sibling goes and gets a massage every once in a while, and I was like, oh man, that sounds good. A massage sounds really nice. I'm like tense all the time. And sibling told me, it's like, yeah, like massages are really great. However, you'll like get one, and then like 6 months later, you'll have like a strong urge to get a massage. It's like once you have it for the first time, like you can't go back. And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't get one then. They only go like once a year, so like it's like a nice thing that they do. But I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to know the delights and the wonders of a massage, because I don't want to feel like I have to go. Oh no, having something nice once in a while sounds terrible. Look, I'd rather it be a Mountain Dew, because at least a Mountain Dew at the gas station doesn't cost more than like $1.50. Like, it doesn't cost much. Massages cost way more. So, is sibling a shield captain? No comment. I will not speak of what the sibling does. I'd rather just use a massage chair. Yeah, whenever I've gotten like, I think my toes done, like at the nail salon, the massage chair is nice. It's like just enough to like get into some of like the sore spots, but not enough for me to be like, oh, I must come back here all the time. No. I have to pull up videos now. We've been talking. Ever use those feet fish baths? I heard that they're illegal in the United States. Like, you know, like where the fish like take your dead skin off. I heard it's like illegal because you can't sanitize the fish. So like if like the fish bit you and it drew blood, it like, and then it bit someone else. Yeah, there's parasites and stuff. So you can do it in other countries. I know someone who went to Greece and got that done. It's not illegal in all the states. Okay. I heard it was well, that was a while ago we had the conversation. I have no idea. I'll be honest. I don't know. I won't pretend I know. Okay. Let me look here. We're pulling up the videos. Okay. So, the two videos I picked out for us today, and maybe we will do another one. Perhaps. I've picked out Skaven Society and then we're gonna do the dwarf video because I just happened to see that and I was like, oh, we should watch that today. You guys like dwarves, right? Oh, now the real question is, do you like dwarves or elves more? Answer wisely. What do you like more? This is a test. You will be graded. You will be judged. Everyone's like dwarves. Most of them are like, yeah. Nope. Let's see. Why am I getting sprayed too on top of that? I didn't do anything sus. Why am I getting sprayed after I get turned bald? Wait. There we go. As someone with a beard, I'm legally obligated to prefer dwarves. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. Making your head shiny. It already is shiny.
That almost everything I've witnessed has been cringe.
Cringe. One sec. We are going to we're gonna do video. Video game. Okay. One sec. I want this one. Beautiful. Oh, I gotta turn my halo off. Unfortunate, but it must be done. You go over here. And you go here. So I can see you. So I can see both the YouTube and the Twitch. Okay. Oh, I need my skitter on here. Hang on. Needs to remind you to get your skitter plushie. We have 10 days left, and 30 skitters need to be adopted. Wait, 35 skitters. I'm sorry, I'm a liar. 35 skitters need adopting. Where will they cause havoc if you do not bring them into your home? Is critical. We're really close. I have some more propaganda I need to release. I will be doing that today. The thumbnail, yeah, I think this was just the start of the video. We'll test the audio here in a sec. I'm gonna turn my background music off. Think you should watch the Sigval video? Okay, well, I try to do my fantasy in like bursts. So if you join the Discord, the live stream chat, you can throw your video recommendations. Cause I can't get to all of them in one sitting, and I don't like to do like a ton of reaction content in like one day. Like imagine like 6 hours of react content. Like I think we'd all die a little bit. So actually I'm gonna put this here and I can see YouTube a bit better. Okay. Hydrate. Okay. I drank a bunch of water earlier. Okay. We're watching, the first one we're watching is Skaven Society because I know you guys like rats. I like them too. They're kind of funny. I will say Gracier Thankwall in the Gotrek and Felix novels, he's a riot. I kind of like him because he's so stupid. But yes, there you go. See, I knew you guys liked the rats. Should I just keep that on the whole time? Oh, I have to turn off my other redeems. 1 second. Off. I think I got them all with that one. Perhaps, I think maybe what we'll do is we'll keep the rat on for this. So actually, I will... Actually, no, it's fine. Let me see. Can I do it? 1 second. I'm making sure I can. Oh, item toggles. Perfect. Okay, perfect. I think this one works. Ooh. I haven't fiddled with this in a second. Okay. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm turning redeems off for now so that we can have the rat up. Okay. That should be fine. So I'm turning them all off so then we can have the rat the whole time. Okay? And then this needs to be... Okay, so we're gonna do this. Where is it? There. Okay, will that work like I think it will? Nope. 1 sec. There we go. Okay. We are set. Sorry for the delay. It only works with this hairstyle. I could not get the rat to work with the other one. So, who is the giant face on the screen? I don't know. This is Pancreas's video, and we're about to start it. Sorry for the delay. Okay, we're gonna do a quick audio test to make sure it's not too loud. All right, get ready.
Moving on from that, every civilization has society. This is not...
That seemed like it was good on my end, but let me know. Was it good? The rat is cute. Thank you. Jay Flair made this. It was like a meme. It was like one of my artists. They just made it for fun. And, yeah. I said, hey, can I use this? And so I used this little rat in thumbnails and other things. It's a lovely little critter. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Okay. This seems like the audio is good. Skaven Society. The life misery of the funny rat things. Yes, yes.
A Joker reference. Moving on from that, every civilization has society. This is not news. These societies are also oftentimes vastly different to each other.
Yes.
This too, I hope, is not news to you. In Warhammer, these societies are naturally all very warlike for one reason or another. Someone that would honestly rather not be at war. The Craftworld Eldar would prefer if people just left them alone, for the most part, and the dwarfs aren't actually the biggest fans of war. They're just even less a fan of letting bygones be bygones. For one reason or another, even the factions would like nothing more than peace have to prepare for war, because when demon invasions are as regular as the weather, a few stockpiled armories is a smart plan to stay alive. But just about all these societies, even some of the Chaos ones, have things about them that aren't completely awful. There's downtime when they aren't actively stabbing puppies or whatever. There's marketplaces and restaurants and bars and things to do to actually have fun. Even Hive Worlds will at least have a community place where people can be miserable together in the 4 hours a week they aren't working. But the Skaven truly do live in a society. From top to bottom, it is awful. There's not a single aspect of it that isn't evil to the core. And quite frankly, Skaven society shouldn't work. And yet it does. By the skin of its teeth, and it's perpetually in a state of being ready to explode into civil war, but Skaven society just barely works. So today, let's look at what the life in the day of a Skaven is like. From the lowest of Skaven slaves to the highest of Grey Seers, you'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy, but at least it's damn funny to look at.
Yes.
But before we begin, might you be hungry? If you aren't now, you
Yes.
will be eventually, and for that I'm
Always.
just the thing. Factor, the sponsor of this video.
Okay.
Factor is the meal delivery service that sends fresh, chef-cooked, and dietitian-approved meals straight to your front door. You know what makes Factor great? A few things, but first and foremost being how convenient and simple it is.
Okay.
There's no prep, there's no cleanup, no cooking time. Put the package in the microwave for 2 minutes, take it out, and enjoy yourself a nice meal. That's it. That's all you have to do to
What
enjoy
kind of
one of
meals
these
do we
fine
have,
meals.
though?
And not
Have
only do
lots
they
of
have high
protein?
standards, having banned over
Hand
175
reveal.
ingredients for being used because they didn't make the cut, but they're also good for a healthy
Okay, why did it take him a second? Was he trying to pull it out of the microwave? I'm sorry. I was like, why is he not pulling it out of the microwave? It's taking too long.
balanced diet. You get veggies with your
Might have
meals
been
and all
hot.
the carbs, fats, and
Doesn't matter. Burn your hands. Suffer. You get stronger with suffering. Okay, that sounds bad. That sounds very Drukari.
what have you that are the perfectly good kind to ensure you're eating healthy. Factor's great for me come that time of day when I remember I should probably eat something. Be that midnight, 5 in the
Shame.
afternoon, or whenever else. They're great when the realization that my body does in fact need food kicks in, but I don't
You
feel
got the
like
face
cooking.
reveal,
If you too
too.
want to get yourself some high quality Factor meals, look no further.
Oh, okay.
Head to Factor
no, wait,
75.
hang on. I'm sorry. Okay, I gotta go back for a second. One of the meals look
If you
kind of
two
fire.
wanna-
Look at that. That looks kind of good, though. I think it's just because I see red meat. Man, now I'm hungry. Thanks, pancreas.
Get yourself some high-quality Factor meals, look no further. Head to Factor75.com or click
I'm
the
a
link below
meathead.
and use code PancreasFB50 to get 50% off your first Factor
Ooh.
box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code PancreasFB50 at Factor75.com to get 50% off
I don't
plus
eat
free
breakfast.
breakfast for 1 year. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. With Factor, eating has never been easier, so why don't you order yourself some
Okay.
today? Now
Man,
then, time
I'm
to kill,
hungry.
murder your neighbor, and take steal his valuables. A lot of the lore I have for you today can be found in the old Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay supplement, Children of the Horned Rat, which is probably the single most comprehensive look at what the Skaven get up to. Some of it is likely not quite canon anymore, because for instance, this book is old enough
I'm sorry. I just saw a comment that says, "Don't call out Mr. Pancreas's pull-out game. It's rude." I'm sorry. That was a beautiful comment. What the heck? Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. Feel like I need to send that to him. That's so bad. Oh my gosh, that honestly, that was a beautiful comment. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm sorry. That was way too funny. I looked over and I was like, I can't believe you said that. I'm glad you did, though. That was funny. All right. I'm gonna go back a sec, and we're going to make sure it's we hear everything because I got so distracted.
to get up to. Some of it is likely not quite canon anymore, because for instance, this book is old enough that necromancy wasn't essentially just limited to the vampire counts and tomb kings in some ways, but for the most part it still holds up and it's a fun read regardless. Properly start, let's look at Skaven society as a whole rather than any one class of them, I guess you could call it. There is, above all else, 2 rules you need to keep in mind for the day-to-day life of Skaven society. They are that shit flows downhill, and the attitude for almost every single Skaven in existence is fuck you, God mine. Do you know how you get promoted in Skaven society almost without fault?
Kill your
the
boss.
person directly above
Yep.
you, and do so in a way that means you can take his stuff. If you want better gear, kill another rat with better gear while he sleeps. If you're an acolyte, be it a scry or tech rat or one to a grey seer, kill them and take their badge of office before explaining to their own superiors that they died of a tragic accident and gave you their position right before. Alternatively, explain how they were trying to sabotage the Council of 13 or their own clan's head of state, and you valiantly stopped them. No one cares what actually happened. Not truly. They'll keep an eye on you, but that's just what happens for everyone sufficiently within a Skaven higher-up's notice. Rewards are expected to be given out in Skaven society, but these are the barest of scraps at least as often as not. If you save a leader from the treachery of another rat, and again this doesn't need to be actual treachery, you can just lie about it, he'll likely give you a warp token and a slightly sharper sword. All Skaven are incredibly selfish, but part of that is knowing when to pay someone so they don't decide it'd be more economical to just kill you and take your place. The backstabbing cannot be overstated. The average Skaven is involved in at least a dozen different betrayals in varying degrees a day. Have you ever read that statistic that you're only like 5 degrees of separation from basically anyone on the planet if you look in the right places? It's like that, only in this case a given Skaven is only ever 5 betrayals away from a council member somewhere being murdered through a massive butterfly effect of backstabbing. There's exactly 2 reasons why they haven't just fallen apart en masse. They breed like rats, as is fitting, and they hate everyone else just barely more than they hate each other. Don't ask about the breeding. But that barely part in itself can't be overstated either.
I bet you he's not really gonna touch on that. I bet you he's gonna be like, yes, it is a thing. Don't think about it too hard. It's messed up.
Almost all their time fighting each other, because they want more power within the Under Empire's hierarchy before they do anything else. Even when they invade the surface world, unless the Great Horned Rat is physically there to tell them to behave, they'll begin sabotaging each other mid-invasion. Here's the average Skaven invasion. Say they want to take down an Imperial city. The leader announces his grand plan. He then immediately looks to have the most obviously ambitious for his spot Skaven put into positions where they'll die in the fighting. His immediate underlings all seek to sabotage each other, because that will make them look better in front of the leader that's expected to give them some kind of reward, as well as to ensure they'll have more power and loot at the end by virtue of there being less rats to share it with. Their underlings are doing the same thing. Eventually we go down far enough the chain of command where we find the Skaven that don't really have underlings to boss around. In this case, they'll still be kicking Skaven slaves in the ribs for funsies, but they'll also be trying to figure out how to position themselves in the upcoming fighting so all the rats around them die instead. By the time the invasion is underway, we are likely looking at about 1/5 of the rats initially involved having died or dying almost immediately, because Skaven view casualties amongst their ranks like we view high scores in an arcade cabinet. Sabotage, assassinations, well, Skaven slaves probably just fall apart sometimes. This goes on until the invasion succeeds or fails. If it succeeds, a new round of backstabbing occurs so that whoever is left standing can take all the credit in front of the Council of 13. If it fails, everyone conjures up an infinite number of reasons as to why it was actually all the other Skaven's fault and why they were only doing what was best for Skavendon, being paragons of virtue. Imagine that scenario, but it's always happening. Shit flows downhill, that part, by the way. This is everywhere, perhaps more so than even the backstabbing. You can find my favorite instance of this in the Thanquol books, because those books are peak from start to finish. Let's say a high-ranking rat is chewed out by his superiors. A Grey Seer is admonished by the Council of 13, but for whatever reason, isn't obliterated on the spot. He will then go on to punish his underlings because he feels bad and is angry at the world, but he can't just start slinging spells at the council. Well, after they get abused, all of his underlings will abuse their underlings to feel better about themselves. This goes all the way to the bottom until we get instances like the Thanquol one, where the clan rats on the boat Thanquol's using to travel start beating their slaves for explicitly no other reason than to look busy and because they were angry they got yelled at by the guy Thanquol yelled at. This can also just happen because a given rat feels like being an asshole, which is always, but the end result is somewhere down the line an abused little rat man needing to reassert his dominance, and so he starts beating his underlings over the head with a stick. It's like the classic bully tactic. Usually there's something bad going on at home, so they take it out on the other kids at school. It makes sense. It makes sense. For some more generalities, Skaven society is actually quite religious. Arguably the most religious in all of Warhammer, save for the traditional Chaos gods. I wouldn't have thought that. And I feel like that's kind of cheating, because having your god only demand worship by you going to war in a wargame setting is religious easy mode. Yes. The Horned Rat is an all-encompassing thing, with them giving praise to him at every possible opportunity. Not at all shockingly, this is not done out of true reverence to the rat god. This is because they fear him, and he more than happily kills them for no reason when he gets the chance. Consequently, all echelons of Skaven society gives him praise. Heresy against the Horned Rat, and this is in fact the proper definition of heresy, which is to go against established dogma, is ruthlessly quelled. Clan Pestilent's entire existence is considered by basically every Skaven outside of it to be incredibly heretical against the Horned Rat. They're just too powerful for anyone to do anything about it. At least not without massive amounts of harm to themselves, which given how selfish the Skaven are, means that barring the Skaven civil wars, there's only the standard amount of sabotage against Clan Pestilence. Their fear of the Horned Rat rat and respect born of it means that the Skaven also will become genuinely enraged if even something as small as a banner with his image on it is torn down, if only because, again, they fear what he'll do to them if they don't avenge it. Skaven are also required to go to church once a day, and if they don't, they'll be accused of heresy, atheism, and general treason. Naturally, those all lead to death, because even in Warhammer Fantasy, you cannot escape Prayer Day. The Skaven language, Queekish, is a language of squeaks, growls, and other various noises like that. Even when they speak it as opposed to other languages, they still say words twice and will often frequently jam two words together with the same meaning. Their writing is based on pictograms, because pictures are easier, simpler than alphabets apparently. Although it's not like there's Skaven kindergarten, so maybe that's a good thing. For some last few fun facts before we move on to the tiers of Skaven society, there is an entire segment in the Children of the Horned Rat dedicated to infanticide. If a Skaven clan conquers the burrow of another, it is customary to eat all the youngling Skavens of the defeated clan. The same page also makes mention of how respect is a cornerstone of Skaven culture, which is hilarious.
That's twisted. I mean, I knew they were gonna be, like, evil, obviously, and comically evil at that, but I mean, it makes sense if you, like, think about it, like, if you think about, like, real life rats, if they did conquer another rat's burrow, they would do that thing. So it makes sense. That doesn't make it less horrible. Ooh. Ooh. Yikes. Oh, yeah, it is nature. It happens. Yikes, though. Oh, I don't like hearing about it. It's Hi, Pancreas! Hello! I saw this video a while ago and I wanted to watch it. Oh, a little snack for the rat. Yeah, oh gosh. I was just telling them that you probably barely touch on Skaven breeding. That's gonna be interesting. Cause this caught me off guard. I was like, that's messed up and bad. But it makes sense. It makes sense. We have, for those of you on Twitch, we have Pancreas over on the YouTube side. And, yeah, this is going to be something. Oh. I wonder if Pancreas saw the other comment. Probably not. YouTube chats go away pretty fast. I have no idea. Don't worry about it, Pancreas. Just don't worry about it. Don't think about it. We'll talk about it later. I don't want to put him on the spot in the middle of this. Unless he really wants me to, but I'm not gonna do that to him. Yeah, no, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, real rats, they will cannibalize them. Like, they'll cannibalize each other. So it makes sense that just, you know, we're accustomed to, you know, like, not doing that as human beings. Like, that is very evil. He saw it. He saw the comment, guys. Okay, let me explain. I was making a comment that for your advertisement for Factor, that it was like, I'm like, why can't he just pull the food out of the microwave? Like, what's going on here? Why is it taking him? Why is he having a hard time pulling it out of the microwave? And so I just commented on that, and then YouTube decided they wanted to say, don't diss his pullout game. And I was like, bro, that's freaking brutal, man. Sorry. I do not control the chat. I did not even, like, hint at anything like that. They decided to do that. Oh, sorry about that. It was really funny, though. He did not get sent to Detroit because it was kind of funny. Well, you see, it's because I'm a clown, but also good Lord. Yeah, it was. It was unexpected. I'm sorry. This is so dumb. I found it really funny though. She does not condone the actions or words of the chat, but she will find it hilarious, yes. It's funny, normally comments like those get filtered out, but it was like one of the few that like slipped through the cracks. But funny enough, sometimes those that slip through the cracks end up being like really funny. I say YouTube's a little bit more unhinged than Twitch. Twitch is like generally pretty well behaved. There's a reason why only Twitch appears on the screen, because YouTube says stuff sometimes I'm like, what, why? It's also really weird. I'll delete comments and like they won't disappear from the screen. So unfortunately, YouTube is in the timeout corner, but I still read them. Oh man. Okay. I'm so sorry, Pancreas. You can decide the fate of said individual. If you want him gone, we'll kick him. Get him out of there. Okay. Shall we continue with our snack? We eat our snack. More bacon sounds good, honestly. Is that why we don't show up? Yeah, among other reasons. I mean, it's primarily because sometimes deleted messages still appear on the screen, which is annoying, especially if, you know, someone says something really bad, which has happened before. It's not great. And then second, YouTube is just generally not as well behaved. But it's okay. I still like you guys. I still read your comments. I don't ignore you. Okay. That was a very nice little break there. Time to continue with our snack. No, I don't hate you. I don't hate you. You're being dramatic.
Hilarious to say out loud. Of course, the book really means that sucking up to your leader is customary, not actual respect. While the book mentions that there's undoubtedly at least one Skaven under your feet relatively closely at all times as well, it also says Skaven Blight only has a population of 250,000.
There's no
Feel free
way.
to add a 0 or 2 to that
Yeah,
number.
I
I
was gonna say,
certainly do.
no.
And for a nice bit of gross to end off on, Skaven females. They're kept bloated and drugged and exist solely to pump out more Skaven. There is a single line at the end of the segment about them hinting this is at least potentially a ruse, partially, and in one of the Thanquol novels, a rival Skaven has roided up Skaven females as bodyguards.
Oh.
Lovely, truly. Also, do not look up art of female Skaven. Not even because it's going to show you a bunch of disgusting, bloated rat people, it's just an ungodly amount of furry smut. Out of all the races to crank the hog to, you freaks chose the Skaven. Shame.
Ew. That's so gross. Like, no, I'm not even gonna comment. That. See, and I was correct. I was correct. Barely mentioned, and that's pretty much how it goes. But like, ew, guys, that's disgusting. No, I'm not gonna say that. I know Rule 34 exists, but still, there's like an element of like, ugh. No, thank you. No.
On you all. Anyways, let's look at their casts now. Fun fact, did you know that the Skaven, in spite of their incredible racism and general hate for beings that aren't themselves, can actually be incredibly egalitarian? Why, you'll never find a race that treats outsiders as equally as they do their own kind.
Because they all
This
treat
is
each other
because they treat
terribly.
the slaves
Yeah.
of other races and Skaven slaves exactly the same,
Yep.
by throwing them into a meat grinder. And no, that's not always metaphorical.
right.
Soylent Green is made out of Skaven. Skaven slaves largely come from either Skaven that have been harshly punished but not killed, runts of the litter that weren't outright butchered for food, and defeated clans that had their members absorbed into the victor. To be clear, all Skaven are mistreated by their superiors,
Yes.
but not only are the superiors of the Skaven slaves everyone, but it's turbocharged for them. This level of the Skaven hierarchy explicitly exists to be used for however long they happen to live, and then turned into food at the best of times. At least the average clan rat might have a small little nook and cranny he can sleep in at night. At least there's times they aren't being abused by someone above them. Skaven slaves live in a city's slave pens, piled atop each other until some taskmaster or other puts them to work on the next project, getting the meat.
How effective is that whip? Sorry, just I appreciate the design, but is that really effective? It's more like you're just swinging like a little weight around, less of a whip than more just like a I'm gonna bonk you with that.
Vigorous scraps of food. The best case scenario for them is likely starving to death, so they don't die in a more horrific way. A given Skaven slave's only chance of escaping this position is to either steal his fellow slaves' food or outright eat them, and then try and find a clan rat to then take the position of instead. How bad these rats have it is mind-breaking and how horrific it is, because there's no injustice you can think of that a Skaven slave hasn't been put through. This is either the largest or second largest grouping of Skaven behind clan rats, depending on how many slaves are being created at a given time, and they perform the bulk of the grunt work that makes the Skaven Empire possible. Across all Skaven settlements, from Skaven Blight to the humblest of burrows, you can find massive groups of them farming black corn, rowing boats, running on treadmills to provide electricity, all things that, since they're Skaven, have a life expectancy of about a week tops, and that's if one of the aforementioned tantral spirals doesn't occur and one of their superiors starts gnawing on their legs to calm down after his boss yelled at them. And when it's time for battle, these rats are the first in line to rush down the enemies of Skaven kind. Not because victory gives them a chance at climbing the ranks, not at all. They'll just be sent back to the slave pits when the fighting's done. No, they do so because at least when they start stabbing Empire State troops, there's a chance they won't die. Assuming they'll make it that far is almost laughable though, because Skaven slaves' purpose on the battlefield is mostly just to soak up enemy ranged attacks and tire out enemy infantry if they make it that far up. Another fun fact, Skaven slaves used to not only cost not even 3 points per model during one edition of Warhammer Fantasy, but they were one of, if not the only unit in all of Warhammer that you were allowed to shoot at an enemy unit they were in melee combat with. Yeah, if you missed, you'd shoot.
I love that. That's incredible. That is, see, okay, I really appreciate rules like that, where you get to do something that's a little silly, but it's like accurate to the lore. That makes so much sense. Skaven would do that. They do not care. It's like the same concept of, I didn't ask how big the room was. I said I cast Fireball. It's the same thing. You don't care. You just want to do damage. You just want to destroy. I love that. It's a shame if they changed that rule, because that's honestly amazing.
Them instead, but who gives a shit? They're Skaven slaves. That's why they exist. Various other races can be found alongside Skaven slaves being worked to death as well, with the Skaven having varying preferences of race. They prefer humans, both because they're everywhere and because human flesh is legitimately the Skaven's favorite food as a race.
I wonder why.
Dwarfs are prized because they're tough and sturdy, though breaking their wills is quite difficult, so they're a rarity. Halflings are usually turned into cattle because they're largely useless compared to people for manual labor. If you're a Skaven that can get his hands on a slave ogre, that's a win or at least a tidy profit if you sell it to Clan Mulder, and elves are rarely seen for a variety of reasons. Their life expectancies are typically just as short as the Skaven slaves they work alongside, though sometimes a Skaven may keep a non-Skaven slave around for a bit longer for prestige purposes or to get a specific use out of it. And quite frankly, the conditions are so horrid for them that I imagine a good chunk of Skaven slaves just almost die at random. Drop dead in the middle of whatever because they're starving, or wounded, or infected, or all three. The average day of a Skaven slave likely goes as follows. Wake up by being hit in the face with a whip, and enjoy yourself a nice dusting of gruel that's going to last you the entire day. Hopefully, you can eat the corpse of the nearest slave that's dead for one reason or another. Whatever your assigned task is, you are then forced to it. If you're lucky, this is a task that isn't diving headfirst into an orc wa because your superiors decided that's the best use of your soon-to-end life. Assuming that isn't your task, I hope you enjoyed the next 20 hours of brutal work, which at best is likely broken up by your overseers throwing a carcass or something rotten into your workplace and telling you and your fellows to go nuts. You're eventually herded back to the slave pits, no doubt receiving plenty of scrapes, lashes, and boots up your ass the entire time, and overall, it sucks. It sucks so bad to be a Skaven slave. The only thing that's likely worse is someone whose soul has been devoured by chaos.
Hey, at least, like, you know, guys, bosses, for us, they're rough. Sometimes your boss is the worst, but at least they don't treat you like slaves. At least they don't treat you like the Skaven do. That's all.
And to briefly go into Age of Sigmar for a moment, the Skaven somehow managed to top even that. Skaven slaves are used in large parts to dig the tunnels in between the realms the Skaven use for transit. Sometimes, a Skaven just falls out of the tunnel into an infinite realm of nothingness. Maybe they die, maybe they fall for all eternity. I don't know the specifics, but I know it's horrifying.
Universe,
Much like the Dark Eldar, if you find yourself as a non-Skaven about to be enslaved, just end your life.
Yes.
There's a non-zero chance you'll be eaten alive, a massive chance you'll be worked to death, and if you're sold to Clan Mulder, they might fuse you with their furniture, much like...
Okay, I think we did this the last time we watched one of Pancreas's videos. Would you rather be enslaved by the Drukhari or by the Skaven? You get to pick one. You can't end yourself. You have to pick one. Skaven or Drukhari. It's pretty but okay, we'll make it even harder. Okay. So Skaven is a quicker death. But what about Drukhari versus Clan Mulder? Skaven, where they do experiments on you. I personally still think it's Skaven, even if you're going to Clan Mulder. Because they're not very good at experimenting. The Drukhari have had a lot of time to perfect their craft and keep you alive. The answer is always Skaven. Skaven, there might at least be a chance to get away. Fair. I could see that, but I still think you're gonna die a painful, horrible death. It'll just be faster. Faster than the Drukhari. They will stretch out your life forever. Okay.
The Dark Eldar do. There's no happy ending for Skaven slaves, just death. The closest chance they got was a Skaven slave named Scabicus, who tried to leave a genuine slave revolution. The Council of 13 told his army they'd spare them if they turned him in, whereupon they descended upon him en masse. And the council killed the rebelling slaves anyways.
Yeah,
such is life in the depths of the Under Empire. Moving up the hierarchy of rats, we come to the clan rats. Conditions here are still abhorrent, but we've reached the point in Skaven society where a given rat has some modicum of value to the powers that be. Not much value, I can't stress that enough. High-ranking Skaven will kill clan rats at the drop of a hat. But clan rats are to be used and abused, as opposed to the use of them being to be abused, if that makes sense. This is the most populated tier of Skaven society, excepting those few moments when there's an influx of Skaven slaves that haven't been worked to death yet. As it turns out, the majority of clan rats are employed as warriors, although that leftover minority is no doubt still millions of rats worth of laborers. While they don't have to exist in the slave pens, they still live in overcrowded barracks and have to fight for everything they need. The difference to me between these and Skaven slaves largely comes down to specifics. A clan rat could feasibly do well enough on a given day that at least for a moment, they could fill their basic needs. Maybe they can scrounge up enough warp tokens to afford to stay at one of the various inns that even the Skaven have, and a nice-ish meal of only somewhat rotten meat. Perhaps they can even steal a properly maintained weapon, although the majority of them are still taking rusty spears and swords to the field of battle, which in itself is an improvement over Skaven slaves. The Skaven do in fact have market...
I was thinking the difference is, like, clan rats will live, like, 1 week, whereas, like, the slave rats might live 3 days. Not much of a difference.
Places and town squares, with the example settlement from Children of the Horned Rat.
Which, I will add, that they live for longer than a week and 3 days, because, you know, they're babies and stuff, but, like, in society...
Mentioning how they'll frequently have names such as Big Squeak, because of course that's the name of one of these places. Used and abused is the motto, however. Clan rats in fact tend to be the first ones to die when the Skaven are doing some kind of experiment or test, for example. Skaven slaves have a limited number of uses by virtue of them being on the bottom of the barrel. They'll frequently be just desperate enough, for instance, that if handed a new scry or weapon and told to give it a test fire, they may damn well turn it on the creator of it. Clan rats, however, in addition to being a bit better off and therefore healthier and more capable, also have just enough to lose that they'll likely think twice about doing that kind of thing. If they think they can get away with it, then without question they'll try and pull one over on their superiors, but the risk versus reward is a bit more skewed towards risk in this case. Clan rats are the second wave of any Skaven invasion after the slaves have all died, and they're sent into fights that would be at least nice if the Skaven could win. Although if they don't, it might not be the end of the invasion or anything like that. If clan rats are part of the main thrust of the invasion, then they'll likely be seen as a massive tide of rodents swarming over everything in a near numberless horde. They'll fight a bit better, a bit longer, a bit more bravely than Skaven slaves, but much like grunts in Halo, if they see an important enough rat get capped, they'll still run for the hills. Or tunnels, as it were. It is at least somewhat important to note that this is where the Skaven habit of actually scheming, as opposed to just shivving your neighbor out of the blue, comes into existence. Skaven slaves, by virtue of how low they are, don't really have the opportunity to form a proper scheme, with the exception of maybe trying to organize a slave rebellion. Given that it's a Skaven slave rebellion, that's less of a scheme and more 50 emaciated rats jumping a dude.
Oh, Lilith, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome in, raiders. I hope you guys had a good stream. My name is Aurelia. I'm a Warhammer Vtuber. I specialize in 40K, but we're watching some fantasy stuff today. I hope you guys had a good stream. And, yeah, I hope you guys had a good time. So, we're learning about the Skaven, the Ratmen, that I wish would appear in 40K, but they probably won't. They probably won't, which makes me really, really sad. You're playing some Space Marine 2, did some grinding before the update. It was fun. Yeah, I gotta play some Space Marine 2 because that update is coming out. And it's been a hot minute. Probably it's been like a year and a half since I played. Ooh, it's not good. It's not good. But we're going to learn about rats. I would love for the rats to be in 40K.
Rats, however, have just enough resources and potentially influence, at least in their given group of rats, that they could organize some kind of plot against a higher-up or rival. These kinds of events happen at all times in the Skaven Under Empire, with thousands of clan rats dying every day, which are promptly replaced by the thousands born every day. Aside from this, the clan rats performing labor or doing tasks honestly not that dissimilar from Skaven slaves, just ones that might require a bit of learned knowledge. The Skaven slave runs on the treadmill of the excavators to power them, but clan rats might be tasked with loading cargo onto the Skaven ships or hammering out more swords in rusty factories.
Still manual
it's nothing
labor,
glamorous, but it's the kind of job that's
labor.
slightly beyond being worked to death in a warpstone mine, and with slightly better rewards and life expectancy.
Yes.
If no Skaven slaves are around, however, clan rats will promptly be put into the same jobs. Clan rats are not considered worth keeping around beyond the need for a living Skaven to do an act. Just because they're worth more than the rest.
Yes, enjoy the rest of your day. Get food. Thank you so much again for the raid.
Keeping around beyond the need for a living Skaven to do an act. Just because they're worth more than the rats in chains doesn't mean they're worth a lot. To put it another way, 1 is 10 times as valuable as 0.1. It's still not a terribly large number. It's very important to note the singular exception to this rule, however, Clan Moors. In Clan Moors, and this is something you can assume to be true for the rest of the tiers of Skaven society as well, backstabbing is generally disapproved of unless the leader is completely incompetent, and the clan rats can expect to have almost decent lives. Certainly by Skaven standards, it might as well be a paradise, because Clan Moors has discovered the secret that a little bit of carrot goes well with the stick. Clan rats of Clan Moors can expect to receive at least basic training fairly regularly, as well as living standards where they won't outright starve to death if they don't plot against their neighbors regularly. This has allowed them to essentially go from nobodies to a contender for becoming the 5th great Skaven clan in fairly short order. And overall, if you for some ungodly reason found yourself as a Skaven, try and make your way to Clan Moors territory as soon as possible. They don't even send conquered Skaven to the Skaven slave pits unless they're treacherous or truly worthless.
They're the best spot to be in, but it's still terrible.
Here we get to the point that a given Skaven's life has actual, genuine value. Still not much, but the backstabbing goes from at the first conceivable opportunity to after they've done something productive for me first. At this level of Skaven is where you find the various properly trained workers of Skavendom, as much as any Skaven can be said to be properly trained. Merchants, lower tier scryer acolytes, those brave few innkeepers that are probably regularly murdered and replaced by a different one every week. This is where skilled labor can be found amongst the Skaven. As much as Skaven research equipment and general technology does usually explode if you touch it too hard, it does still require all sorts of personnel to create and maintain. If nothing else, the Skaven who creates something usually has an army of underlings they tested on and or steal the design ideas from.
And the
this is the level where that sort
them.
of Skaven exists. Able to potentially afford something as luxurious as their own small burrow in some corner of a Skaven city, these Skaven wield a small but noticeable amount of power, at least in day-to-day life. They certainly aren't bringing clans to warfare, but they can afford to send a clan rat or a dozen to jump you if they think their schemes require it. As a result, not only is this the level that I imagine most average Skaven scheme towards reaching, but this is where the the most varied schemes happen. It's the happy middle ground, and please allow me to explain. The higher up you go, the larger things get, as is expected. The Council of 13 aren't hiring a random clan rat to mug you in an alley, they're sending Deathmaster Snitch after you. Which is spectacular, to be sure, but there's something to be said for lower-scale scheming and having to get creative with limited resources. On the other hand, at this level, a given Skaven can afford something truly spectacular if they work hard towards it and put their all into it. They aren't just gathering fellow poor rats to jump a slightly less poor rat. They have resources, contacts, and influence to bring to bear, yet at the same time it's not enough where they can just say their name and every Skaven around will bend over backwards out of fear. This is where the most dynamic treachery happens, where planning and resources come into equal part out of necessity.
About that.
Of course, an important fact about this game is that every single rat wants to climb to the top, so the fellows here would rise above if they can. Viciously fighting to become a member of the Council of 13 is regular, and if they got that far, chances are they seek the day they can become the Emperor of all Skavendom by themselves. Hell, Thanquol once on a power trip said he might one day try to overthrow the Great Horned Rat. Ambition is key to all Skaven, and at this level, that ambition has the potential to be truly grand.
Wow.
Beyond that, the Skaven here are the most likely ones to live something
max.
approximating a normal life. Something where they have to pay the bills, take out the trash, that kind of thing. Not quite as domestic as an actual person would have, but this is the closest thing the Skaven have to the middle class by my estimation. The average day for one of these fellows indeed involves clocking into work and dealing with whatever their overlord says it's time to work on. Pestilence might work on a plague, Molder Skaven on some other creature or other, but it's a nice old-fashioned kind of deal in some ways. They clock in their 12 hours at the ball-crushing factory before going home to do whatever the hell. No doubt they concoct all sorts of schemes in their off time, but that's generally just what Skaven do in their downtime. It's how they relax. This is also roughly where you can find the standouts of a given clan. Plague monks and gutter runners, for instance, are about at this level, the stereotypical image of their clans that give them their shtick. Life is still a struggle even for them, but it's a struggle with something to look forward to at the end of the day. That something is paid for in lesser Skaven blood, but that's just their society. The most noticeable type of Skaven in this class are the Storm Vermin. For those unaware, Storm Vermin are the elite infantry of the Skaven.
They're
of course
cool.
Not equal to the elite of other factions, these are nonetheless Skaven who by virtue of being born with black fur are a cut above the rest, given training to accommodate them and turned into the elite forces and bodyguards of any given Skaven army. They do get some resistance from the common Skaven politicking because of this, but to make up for it, they'd have to deal with other Storm Vermin rivals of equal upbringing, as well as being used as disposable pawns in the schemes of higher Skaven. For reference, in Halo the Spartan 3s were used when ODSTs couldn't get a job done, and Spartan 2s couldn't do it without dying. That's where Storm Vermin often lay in the upper echelons of Skaven politics. The Grey Seer needs an important task done, but the survival of the rat doing it is largely irrelevant. This is where we get to the movers and shakers of Skaven society. At the word of a single rat at this level, thousands of lesser ones will mobilize and then die for their betters. For the benefits of this level before anything else, these rats wield great power and can enjoy the benefits such a station brings. Access to breeders, because yes, that is a reward in Skaven society,
Yep.
they're so awful. Warp tokens aplenty, a near-endless supply of minions. Even for the worse-off clans known as slave clans, those who are thralls to a greater one, these Skaven still rule over their underlings even if they do answer to a higher power other than the Council of 13. Politics are an actual thing that happens at this level, not just the Skaven version of politics. Trade deals between clans, the bargaining of massive amounts of slaves, invasions of the surface on at least a localized level. These Skaven wield tremendous power over a localized area.
And like to some extent, they actually kind of behave. Like, you know, obviously they're still scheming, but there's times where they still keep up like appearances and like, okay, well, I'm not gonna do this because, you know, this guy's gonna be suspicious, this and that. Like it's really interesting that there is some, like a really, 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 really tiny amount of civility. Very small, but it's there.
Oftentimes quite large areas if they're one of the better off warlord clans. Speaking of, this is as good a type of any to talk about the different kinds of clans. I've spoken before about the four great clans of Scryer, Pestilence, Eshin, and Molder, the ones that are the most powerful by far and influence all the Skaven clans beneath them in some way or other. Clan Moors as well, which as discussed became a contender to become the 5th great clan by virtue of being slightly closer to lawful evil than any other one. Aside from that, however, there are two other types of clan: Warlord clan and Thrall or Slave clan.
Welcome in, Raiders. Welcome in, Gremlin May. Can we get a shout out for Gremlin, please? Thank you, Raiders. Welcome in. Welcome in. My name is Aurelia. I'm a Warhammer Vtuber. I specialize in Warhammer 40K, but we're learning some Warhammer fantasy today, and we're learning about Skaven Yes, this is Pancreas. Yeah, we're watching Pancreas today. What were you guys up to? What were you guys up to today? Were you guys doing anything fun? Because we're learning about rats, and some of it is unpleasant. Because Skaven society really, really sucks. RimWorld Biotech, man, I keep thinking, like, I want to play RimWorld, but, like, I was talking to a friend about playing RimWorld, and they said to me, it's like, no offense, Aurelia, you don't really have, like, the brain for RimWorld. They weren't saying I'm stupid, but you kind of have to have a certain mentality to play RimWorld. Because I thought it would be fun to do like a Warhammer themed one, and they're like, yeah, you don't have the mind for it. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. But I'm glad RimWorld is going well for you. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. Just set it to easy. Now, how do I articulate? It was like, they basically said, like, you need to keep a lot of things in mind all at once. It's kind of like for, like, even though I've improved at, like, RTS games, it's like, you have to have your attention everywhere at once, and you kind of have to micro some things. RimWorld, it's not obviously as intense, but, yeah. Is it the losing is fun mentality? Well, I don't like that mentality. Losing is not fun. I stop having fun when I'm losing. Maybe that's bad. Maybe that's bad. They called me pretty. No, they didn't call me pretty. They just said, like, Aurelia, you're smart, but this is like a different kind of, like, you need to have like a different mindset when you're playing that kind of game. Don't play Elden Ring then. I want to play Elden Ring. It actually sounds like fun. Just pause the game and it's fine. But yeah, it would just be paused RimWorld Simulator. If we're being honest. Paused RimWorld Simulator. Well, thank you. I appreciate that you guys said I could do it. I'm so sorry. I got so distracted. That is true. I do recommend trying it on your own time. It's a very chill game when you get the basics down. Yeah, maybe I just need to sit down and do basics. Maybe that'll be okay. Aurelia's maidenless. Wait, where did this come from? Where did this come from? Huh? I'm catching strays for no reason, huh? Come on, I've got maidens, I've got Froggy, I've got I haven't really collabed with her yet. I've got Mirabelle, I've got friends, I've got maidens. Apparently I have no maidens. I don't know how this happened. Oh, it's because I haven't played Elden Ring, so I have no maidens. Oh, okay, I was like, what? I was like, oh, this came out of nowhere. I was like, I thought you guys were being, like, semi-serious, but no, the meme. No maidens? Got it, okay. Because I knew the meme, but I just didn't make the association that you were referring to me not playing Elden Ring with not having maidens. Yeah, I have no maidens. You're right, I do have one. Sanguinius, the ultimate maiden. Oh my gosh. Anyways, thank you so much for the raid. Please sleep, eat, raiders, whatever you gotta do, rest. Do your thing. We will be watching more Pancreas because he's got awesome videos. So we are going to support him and his work. Can I scroll down? No, I can't. Wait. Give it a like. Oh, wait. You can't see it. My model is, but like the videos. Support him. Yeah. Oh, yes, I will enjoy the video. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right. Let's get back to the rats.
clan. The lore calls them thrall clans, but let's be honest here, they're slaves to a greater one. Warlord clans are
Wait, hang on.
Skaven
Actually, we're gonna back up a sec. I just want to make sure I caught everything.
Virtue of being slightly closer to lawful evil than any other one. Aside from that, however, there are two other types of clan: Warlord clan and Thrall or Slave clan. The lore calls them thrall clans, but let's be honest here, they're slaves to a greater one. Warlord clans are Skaven clans that aren't powerful enough to be great clans, but also aren't under the direct ownership of another clan. This is the average Skaven clan, where all the above tiers of castes, or whoever you want to call them, exist. They oftentimes will have a slightly different culture to the rest
I like
of
seeing the
Skavendom, or at
art.
least a gimmick.
It's really
Clan
cool.
Scurvy, for instance, is exactly what you think something
Pirate?
called Clan Scurvy is. Pirate rats.
Yeah.
At the same time, the influence of the great clans is not only so all-encompassing, but perhaps more importantly, those are the models GW sells, that naturally those kinds of things still show up in Warlord clans. As the average for Skaven clans, Warlord ones can vary in power from strong enough to at least be a speed bump to a great clan, to barely hanging on out, but still technically independent. Believe it or not, alliances are a frequent thing amongst these clans. Alliances of convenience, based on bullying each other, where everyone involved is ready to turn on the other at the drop of a hat,
Sounds
but
about
it is
right.
still an alliance with treaties and expectations. When the Skaven
You're right, Clan Scurvy. They're pirates. That's a good one. That was a good one.
invade, you'll rarely find the main clan behind it being the only clan involved, as warlords call upon all the other rats they can through whatever means they can scrounge up. A given Skaven clan will likely have, if nothing else, various Scryer acolytes and Molder packmasters, provided they have the funds to buy them, because all Skaven want rat ogres and rattling guns in their arsenal. Bribery and blackmail for us is the sign of a corrupt
like
individual.
the-
For the
the
Skaven,
rat
that's just another
career.
way to acquire resources and manpower. Thrall clans, meanwhile, are those that willingly or not have become direct vassals of a warlord clan, or more often, one of the great clans. These Skaven tend to be the poorest of the bunch by default, because no Skaven would submit to another unless there was no choice in the matter. That said, this does happen willingly fairly often. Becoming a Thrall clan to a greater one affords you some amount of resources and protection, if for no other reason than the new Skaven overlords of the Thrall clan will view you as their stuff, and Skaven like their stuff. Even in
Yeah,
these
they
instances,
won't
however,
outright
I'm
destroy
still
you,
comfortable
perhaps.
calling them slave clans. A Thrall clan still has a degree of separation between them and the main one, so a warlord of the greater clan is almost certainly going to bleed the Thrall clan dry in a given battle before deploying their own troops.
For sure.
An example
That
of a
makes
Thrall
sense.
clan would be Clan Septic. Clan Septic, in a rather unusual turn of events for Skaven, see themselves not just as thralls of Clan Pestilence, but as their right-hand men. They, by Skaven standards, throw themselves into battle with incredible fervor, because they fully believe in the cause of the Pestilent Brotherhood. Clan Pestilence
Okay, that's
naturally
kinda
loves this,
cool.
because that means more rats that aren't directly part
Loyalty.
of Clan Pestilence to
Which
soften
is-
up an enemy with. Despite this, they somehow keep coming out of these fights alive, so maybe the Horn Rat does have a soft spot for them. Thrall clans in particular have to be especially careful with their politicking. As the underlings of a stronger one, if they're too brazen with gaining power, then there's a high chance their master clan will smash them flat for getting out of line, especially if they outright rebel. In that case, it'll be straight to the Skaven slave pens for any survivors. At the very least, if they have a really good loot haul, their master clan is likely to take almost all of it. Warlord clans, however, have to face not only that kind of problem, as the great clans aren't exactly willing to let a fifth one rise up if they can help it, but also have to be careful with expanding too rapidly. These clans are oftentimes large enough that if a rival Skaven seeks to claim the title of warlord, he can easily take a chunk of a warlord's clan's Skaven and resources with him in a civil war, which creates another warlord clan. For these reasons, all the clans have to tread carefully. Or, well, they try to. As you're likely aware, the Skaven are also rampagingly incompetent, and most of them aren't Thanquol, who get away with it by virtue of being funny to their patron god. Sooner or later,
Yes.
strife comes to a Skaven clan, and how they handle it decides if it ends up being a warlord clan, becoming a thrall clan, or the entire thing being subsumed to another clan's ranks of slaves. Grey Seers are different, however. While they can be the warlord of a clan, such as Seer Lord Kritislik on the Council of 13, most of the time they're independent agents. This would usually be astonishingly stupid in Skaven society, as despite all the backstabbing, being alone means you're open to just normal stabbing by 50 other rats. However, Grey Seers are basically their own class
mean-
of Skaven.
You mean London? Anyways.
I've just lumped them in with warlords because they have roughly as much power as one. Grey Seers are Skaven born with grey fur that act as not only the wizards of the Skaven, but as emissaries of the Council of 13 and the prophets of the Horned Rat himself. There's only ever 169 of them at a time, because 13 by 13 is 169. All other Skaven fear them on some level for all of these reasons. The simplest is the wizardry. While Scryer does have their warp magitech, Clan Eshin has sorcerers, and Clan Pestilence has their magical plagues, by and large, only Grey Seers are allowed to practice outright magic. Any other Skaven doing it has to be very careful and is more than likely to get caught and killed, which is why Clan Eshin and Pestilence are the only ones to really get away with it by virtue of their power and influence.
Right, Pestilence
Scryer,
is
meanwhile, is in a weird middle ground where it's tolerated if only because their weapons are too useful. Got a bit sidetracked there, but because the Grey Seers are the trained mages of Skavendom, all the other rats fear them, because when you piss one off, they might just blow you away on the spot. That happens all the time. Again, go read Thanquil's books. You should do that anyways.
Even in the Gotrek and Felix books, there's stuff like that happens.
At least some of the instances in them of this aren't happening by him, by the way. Few things scare a Skaven more than a Grey Seer's ire for that reason alone, because every single one of them is more than happy to use power word kill on the first rat to bother them. Even if a Skaven covers himself in foolproof magical protective wards and could just ignore a Grey Seer's magic, like Marnius Calgar in Space Marine 2, he's not likely to survive the follow-up punishment sent by the Council, or the Horned Rat himself for disobeying his prophets. Other Skaven warlords and leaders do of course still sabotage their efforts and occasionally try to see them killed, but for even the lowliest Grey Seer, they have to be far more careful with it. If you see a Grey Rat with horns on his head walking around seemingly without a care in the world, it's probably because he just ass-blasted some dude to Kingdom Come for being uppity, and knows the display has earned him about 5 minutes at least of not needing to fear for his life. That said, all bets are off when it comes to other Grey Seers sabotaging them. It's a constant game of assassinations there as it is for the rest of Skaven society, only this time with the added knowledge that the person trying to kill a Grey Seer is no doubt also a powerful mage. And of course, can't forget about their own apprentices. There's a lot more than just 169 Skaven born with grey fur every year, which is the mark of a future Grey Seer. These rats become apprentices to an existing Grey Seer, aka slaves and servants at the best of times, and whenever a new position opens up, one of them will take on the role. How do you think this position usually opens up, viewer? Did you guess an apprentice kills his master? Because, yeah, that's generally how it goes.
Wow.
Failing that, another Grey Seer might kill an apprentice's master, and then blackmails that apprentice to become a Grey Seer that's under their influence. Or a Grey Seer dies in battle and the apprentice just takes their place. That does admittedly happen plenty often enough. Grey Seers also have to contend with the Council of 13's wrath directly, which of course Thanquil's had to figure out how to survive on plenty of occasions. Just because they're high up doesn't mean that they're invulnerable, but by virtue of being born grey, they have far more access to luxuries, breeders, and power than almost every other Skaven could hope to achieve. As a quick final note, you could argue that the albino guard of the Council of 13 might be at this level. Similar to how Grey Seers are their voice, an albino storm vermin is a personal guard.
I will say, one of the things I didn't realize, and alright, I'm going to say this. We're not going any farther than me just making this comment. I didn't realize that some of the Skaven roles were assigned based off the color of their fur. I didn't know that. Like, Grey Seer, I didn't think anything of it. Like, Storm Vermin, I didn't realize that they had the black fur. I didn't know that. Alright. We're not going to say anything more. If you guys say anything more, you're getting bonked. I just want to clarify, I didn't know that. I just assumed they were just rats that showed, like, aptitude for stuff.
Guard of the Council of 13. Bred and trained to be actually loyal to the Council, these Skaven go through hellish training to become some of the strongest warriors around, protecting the Council as well as Grey Seers in general. They're all mute, they may actually be mutants or just dye their fur white, or maybe it just turns white magically once they become part of the Council Guard. Either way, while they don't hold much political power, they are fairly immune to typical Skaven backstabbing by virtue of being actually well-fed and compensated in exchange for guarding the leaders of the Skaven. That's largely why I'm lumping them in at this level, and because one of them showing up means either the Council is interested in you or an important Grey Seer or Warlord has come to town. Mess with them and it will not end well. The true head honchos of Skavendom. These 12 rats dictate what not just a clan, but all Skaven shall do next in their quest to bring about the Great Ascendancy and drown the surface world in rats. You may be wondering why 12 rats are on the council. That's because the Horned Rat himself is technically on the 13th seat. He rarely directly intervenes, but I would still advise you to not sit in his chair. I haven't read any lore about what happens if anyone does, but I assume it's a bad idea. The warlords and other figures that make up the Council of 13 usually come from powerful clans, but thrall clans can in fact make it on there, by the politicking of their masters of course. Clan Morbidus, a thrall clan of Pestilence, has a seat on the council, essentially ensuring the Pestilence always has at least 2 votes on any matter. The Council of 13 is arranged like a clock around their 13th chair for their god, with the 1st and 12th seats closest to the 13th being the most powerful, and the farthest ones of the 6th and 7th being the least powerful seats.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
6, 7, 6, 7, 6.
No! I was talking to chat, but Pancreas, you did it anyway! Oh my gosh. Oh, you put this on the internet. 20 years from now, people will be like, what the heck is this 6-7 nonsense? Actually, you know, you'll probably have an updated video since then, but still. Oh, he's here in the chat! He's still here! Oh my gosh, he said, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Dang it. Oh my gosh. I would like to clarify too, since you are here, I'm not yawning because the video is boring. I'm yawning because I'm tired. I did a workout right before this. So I just want to clarify, video not boring. I am enjoying it. I'm just tired. Oh my gosh. Mods, twist his pancreas. Do it! Fix his pancreas! It makes me think of Team Fortress 2. This goes against everything I stand for. Neck fix. Fix his pancreas, mods.
767. The Great Clans, sure enough, have quite the representation here, as does the Grey Seer clan,
Oh my
but
gosh.
others like clan wars that are their own thing, by and large, can be found coming and going from the council as old members die. Backstabbing at this level involves sending entire armies of lesser clans after those of another council members because of their influence. It's the kind of thing that might not even qualify as backstabbing technically, just a declaration of war. If not that, then they can orchestrate actually cunning schemes instead of just stabbing someone who isn't looking. The entire backing of
Very
Skavendom is
cunning.
at their beck and call, and when they decide to invade, the Skaven come out to play. Even the Thrall clan counselors, who are ultimately a slave to a greater one on the council, have the power to unmake you. Surprisingly for the Skaven, anyone is actually able to openly challenge a council member at any time. All they have to do is touch the black pillar that holds the commandments of the Horned Rat and challenge an existing member. This is a threefold problem for why it doesn't happen often, though. 1. The black pillar is in the center of
Yes.
Skaven Blight, so anyone
Yeah.
approaching it is likely to be murdered well before they can touch it.
Hard to
2.
get there.
The members of the Council of 13 are the strongest, cleverest, most powerful Skaven there are. You are almost certainly not as clever as them, and you definitely aren't as well entrenched and equipped into Skavendom as they are. Most of the time a council
Yeah.
member is replaced is either because they achieved the legendary status for a Skaven of dying a natural death, or more likely because other counselors had them killed instead. And problem 3, which is perhaps the hardest problem to overcome, is the black pillar itself. Most of the time a rat touches it, they just blow up. Blowing up tends to be the last thing any Skaven ever wants to do, so even if they could make it to the pillar, few ever actually try. Also, fun fact, most of the commandments on
kinda
the pillar
cool.
contradict each other. This is entirely on purpose, because
Makes
the Horned
sense,
Rat
yeah.
both wants his worshippers to be clever about getting around them, and because he finds it funny watching them squirm. The daily life of a member of the Council of 13 is trying to get the other members discredited so they can be killed later on, followed by attempting to prevent the others from doing the same thing to them. They also like to dabble in sending tens of thousands of rats to their deaths at any given moment for a
Dabble.
scheme, an invasion, or because they're in the mood for it. Thanquol will walk in once or twice a month, whereupon they'll make him nearly shit himself before they send him off on a suicide mission he will somehow survive without fault. They'll eventually do whatever actual work needs
this
to be done to
angers
further
them.
their own clan's goals, head back to their quarters to eat the finest of Skaven food and snort the finest of warpstone, and then retire before doing it all over again the
That's the
next day.
life.
It's a vicious life, but usually the people paying for it are the underlings. I do not mean Skaven courting rituals, because those don't exist.
I hope not. Except I'm concerned about the people that have their Rule 34 Skaven art. You don't want to do that. There are so many better options for you.
Instead, I mean how they interact with the other races. Obviously, everyone hates them and they hate everyone, and it's a lot of knives, but there are some differences between individual groups. I also don't know where to talk specifically about this bit, if not this video, so here it is. Humanity is on a sliding scale of being aware and ready to combat the Skaven. Bretonnia is at the bottom because they suck. This comes directly from the Children of the Horned Rat book, and while it is in universe written by an Imperial, I choose to believe he's right and not being biased at all. Eat shit, Bretonnia, I hate you, please die. The Empire lies in the middle. By and large, the official word is that there's no such thing as the Skaven. Maybe there's just beastmen that happen to look like rats at most. Witch hunters, of course, know the truth and fight them, and the Empire does have its rat catchers who prowl the sewers as a preventative measure against lesser Skaven
I really want to play
incursions.
Vermintide.
Tylea, meanwhile, is a nation...
Pancreas, do you play Vermintide? Are you here? If you're still here, do you play Vermintide? And do you want to play Vermintide? This is critical. Because I played one time, but we didn't have enough people. And I want to play. Why would I put that idea out in the ether? Because I want to play. I was gonna play it. Yeah, it's fun. Okay, we'll talk later. Yeah, okay, cool. Yay, we're gonna play Vermintide, guys. I started it, and then it got... Long story short, it got weird, and this guy joined our group, but so we need, like, a full party to play. Yes, okay. Okay, we'll play. We'll play. Excellent!
that has the misfortune of being directly next to Skaven Blight, and so does not have the luxury of pretending the Ratmen don't exist. They fight them tooth and nail, and acknowledge their existence, but have largely seen success in fighting them off prior to the end times, where no one won, so I don't count it. Dwarfs are the enemy that Skaven have most fought since the beginning of time, but with both of them living underground.
Yeah, underground.
The war has kind of been back and forth. Initially, dwarfs were a difficult foe to face, then the Skaven adapted and began overrunning many holds. Then the dwarfs learned how to properly counter them, which shifted it back in their favor. Then the Skaven invented flamethrowers and chemical warfare, which helped them out.
As you do.
Nowadays, the two races are still in frequent conflict, but not as often as you might think. Most dwarf holds have fallen with many to Skaven control, and the Skaven often find it easier to fight each other than the stout Dowie. Chaos Dwarfs' interactions are limited and oftentimes revolve around slave gathering by both sides, although I would assume at least once in history a Scryer Rat and Chaos Dwarf Demonsmith collaborated on a mad science project. I choose to say and believe this has happened because I like the mental image of the various abominations that could come out of that pairing from hell. Also, a quick unrelated question for you all. Who do you think would create the most monstrous thing given a week? Perturabo, Icked Claw, the medic from Team Fortress 2, or Shockwave?
Okay. I'm torn, so I don't know much about Shockwave. Or anything. Period. Other than that, he's in Transformers. That's it. It's either Medic or Perturabo. Medic. Medic. If you know, you know. Baboon uteruses. That is all. That is all.
Money's on Shockwave, personally, although the medics would still be the funniest for sure.
Oh,
the Skaven
yeah.
also, by and large, try to avoid the elves. They can't get into Athel Loren because the ground is alive and hates them, and they can't get to Ulthuan because it's a continent that doubles as a boat. It's very hard to dig a tunnel through the water, it turns out. They do occasionally have dealings with the Dark Elves.
Look, I didn't say that. I didn't say that because, like, for no reason. There's a reason I said it. Investigate it yourself. Investigate it yourself.
Both races are awful slavers, but both sides also betray each other at every chance. The Orcs are probably the most frequently worked with race for the Skaven, although it is noted in Children of the Horned Rat that this usually ends up with the Orcs in question finding out why that's a terrible idea once they're done working together. Goblins are much more wary of the Skaven, being smarter than Orcs and being aware the Skaven are literal rat bastards because of it. There's also the Night Goblins, who also make their home underground and as such frequently come into conflict with the rats. Places like Carrick 8 Peaks are a hotbed of goblins example, in its Skaven warfare.
I've not seen this map. Okay, I'll look at it later. I like maps. Like fantasy maps I enjoy them.
Featuring the dwarfs that occasionally try to reclaim their old home. Ogres just view Skaven as meat, so they aren't worth considering, and the forces of chaos are a bit more varied in opinions, but it of course trends to bad. Everyone knows the Skaven are awful, so no alliance ever lasts. Nurgle gets along with Clan Pestilence alright, but alright is the best case scenario, and there's still plenty of betrayal. That attitude is itself mostly an Age of Sigmar anyways, because of the Grand Alliance system. Slaanesh forces would find them completely distasteful, with the potential exception of a Slaaneshi demon prince that really likes the iPhoney rat video. Hope that sentence ruined someone's day, by the way. Tzeentch probably
Thank goodness I don't know what that is.
appreciates the scheming nature of the Skaven, but he's still not going to work with them. Khorne likely how much bloodshed they create, but he no doubt hates their cowardice. And in general, they do all work together occasionally, but only for the shortest amounts of time. Beastmen are interesting in their relationship, but more in a
Pancreas, you have a casualty in my Twitch chat. There was a casualty. You got someone. It ruined your day, I guess.
But only for the shortest amounts of time. Beastmen are interesting in their relationship, but more in a meta way. In older editions of Warhammer Fantasy, they were essentially just an offshoot, if stable, race of beastmen. They were their own thing, but they were a subtype of beastmen. Kind of like abhumans over in 40k. This was done away with, sometimes made ambiguous, and it seems by the time of Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition, it was the case that many who learned of the Skaven thought of them as beastmen, but they aren't. They do have quite a bit in common, it should be said though, as much like the Skaven, the beastmen are savage, disgusting creatures.
Stim. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is Vtuber friend named Stim. I didn't know he put her in a video. That's hilarious. This video is from like a couple months ago. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. She is down bad for the Beastmen. It's really concerning. It makes me uncomfortable. Like that makes me so uncomfortable. I'm like, this, no. I'm sorry. I don't like them hairy like that. Or with animal features. The only animal feature I accept are wings. I only accept wings. Everything else, nah. No. Can't. I can't. Can't do it. And Soulpelt, sorry, thank you for the super chat. Shockwave has his sense of empathy and compassion surgically removed by Transformer Congress. He scares Megatron. Okay, well that would make him very intimidating. That is for sure. I still don't know enough about him, but I think he could make something brutal if he, had that. Horns? Oh, okay, you're right. Horns are palatable, but I knew someone was going to come out of the woodwork and say, like, you don't like animal parts, Aurelia. What about Sanguinius's wings? So that's why I had to clarify. Horns are doable, but usually a sign of chaos. I wonder how many people were just like, what? What is this creature here? Like regular Warhammer people just be like, huh? Look, at least I'll never catch strays because Pancreas is based and likes elves like me. There's like obviously no connection to that. I'm clearly an abhuman. Anyways, and we have other interests that we share. I found that out just the other day. We have some common interests, but at least I'm not going to catch a stray like this.
In common, it should be said, though, is much like the Skaven, the Beastmen are savage, disgusting creatures worthy of contempt who live in squalid conditions of might makes right and treachery that you should hate. Oh, and I guessed Grand Cathay for a bit had a Clanesian assassin as an advisor, like at the Dragon Emperor. There was briefly a Skaven advising a human nation as an official, legal, known-about advisor. Was Zhao Ming in charge of this? I feel like Zhao Ming was the reason that happened. And that is at least the basics of Skaven society. I wanted to talk about the Ratmen, so I talked about the Ratmen. Stay tuned for the next video where I just talk unscripted about the Skaven after 8 beers. Thank you as always to my wonderful channel members.
That sounds great.
You are the Skaven slaves to my Skaven under empire, toiling away to keep this horrendous monstrosity I have going. If you'd like to support the channel, feel free to subscribe or become a member. Either way, thank you for watching. For those who celebrate, have a Merry Christmas, have a Happy New Year, and of course, take care out there.
Didn't you do a quiz that says you're a Bretonian, though? Okay, but, like, that's not important. That's not important. I still play, the Empire of Man in Total War, so, like, it's not that serious. Silence Horse Girl, wow. Wow. Rude. Rude. I'm an Empire of Man girly. That was a good video. The stim reference at the end totally threw me. Was not expecting it. That's so funny though. I'm not a horse girl. What? No. What? No, I'm not a horse girl. Like, I'm not. That was never me. I was never, like, obsessed with horses and, like, no, never. I don't even own a horse. Horses are expensive. I wouldn't even own one even if I had the money for it. That doesn't make sense. We believe you. I hope you do. I hope you do. I'm sure Stim reacted to the video. I'm sure she and Pancreas, well, she's known Pancreas for longer than me. I knew about Pancreas, but only recently got introduced to him. So she probably has. She's probably well aware, for sure. There's already a horse Vtuber. This is not the one. No, she's cool though. She is cool. I like her model. Okay, guys, I'm hungry. Give me 30 seconds. I am grabbing bacon from the fridge and my bag of pepperoni because I need protein and I'm hungry. From the brick to the pancreas. Yep. Okay. 1 second. I'm grabbing the meat and I'll be back in 30 seconds. So behave. Okay. 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 I'm back. Let me turn some of the stuff back on. We're not doing rat stuff anymore. No, don't snort, Warpstone. That's bad for you. Look, they're setting fires in the YouTube chat. Incredible. Here's my 1 pound bag of pepperoni. Emotional support pepperoni. Alright. Now, contrary to popular Popular belief. I do appreciate dwarves. So we're gonna watch the dwarf video that he just came out with. Please? Wait. Do I have a pancreas command? I should fix that. I don't have one. I need to do that. Okay. Put that on my list of things to do. Make a pancreas command. Thank you, Tubright. Let me copy this. Copy link. I will make a pancreas, a friends list. I have a bunch of friend shout out stuff, and I should add him to it. I'm probably going to have him on it. One moment. We'll do it right now. And then we'll start the next video. Add. Okay, 1 second. Adding a action. Doing it right now, so I don't forget. Hang on. This is really important. Pancreas does great videos. All right. There we go. All right, save. Should be good now. So. Okay. My brother has a pancreas command. It's called an insulin injector. Oh gosh. All right. We're gonna stay where we have a little surprise at the end. So 1 second. Because I think he has a question that he asked. More pepperoni. Look at all these supporters. He's supported by Archeon the Everchosen? That's suspicious. Have you watched the Pancreas Magic video? The Wind of Magic in the Schools? No, I haven't. Oh, there's so many of his videos I need to watch, but I don't want to annoy him by watching.
The Imperium of Man be like, we are the...
I don't want to annoy him by like watching all of his videos and like spamming like, yeah, I watched this. I feel bad. Feel bad. And thank you, Rovon, for the super chat, by the way.
The Imperium of Man be like, we are the rightful rulers of the galaxy and the true master species. No, you aren't. The Ratmen are coming.
Oh.
Joker reference.
The rats, and yes, I did know. I actually made a comment when we were first learning about Skaven society. I made a comment, I was like, man, it kind of sounds like the Imperium, because of like they're very meat grindery. And I had no idea that Pancreas had made a video that it was like the Imperium are like the Skaven of 40k, and I was like, huh, that's wild. I had no idea. Sorry, I need a napkin because pepperoni is greasy. But I need my protein. Okay. Now. Dwarves. I cannot do a Scottish accent to save my life. I just can't. I am incapable of doing that thing. Okay, wait. I'm checking to make sure. Okay, good. Okay. We are set. You are allowed to eat with utensils, but, like, it's pepperoni in a bag. Like, I'm not sticking a fork in there. Like, yeah. But please make sure to like and subscribe to Pancreas. He's awesome, makes really good videos. Now it's time for dwarves.
The well right out of the gate or not, but
Oh, wait, hang on.
I can't tell if this is poisoning the well right out of the gate or not, but I find myself relating to the dwarfs more as I grow older. They live underground and are fairly isolationist. I hate leaving my house. They love themselves a good brew. I'm an alcoholic. They have...
I was gonna say, like, kind of sounds like a VTuber. It is. Wait a second. It is a VTuber, because you know what? All VTubers are men with beards and voice changers. I actually don't think dwarves would use a voice changer, but stay inside. Don't touch grass. Beards. Can confirm, I definitely 100% have a beard. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Long beards, give it a few more years and a beard will be the only hair I'll be able to grow on my head. Truly, there has never been a fantasy race I relate to more. But in all seriousness that I can bring myself to be, the dwarfs of Warhammer Fantasy are a great version of the dwarf archetype. Given how old this setting is, there's an argument to be made that they're foundational to it. They've got all the greatest hits, but that bit of Warhammer spice too.
Alright, calm down, chat. There's no need to call me short. Calm down. There's no need to call me short.
Argument to be made that they're foundational to it. They've got all the greatest hits, but that bit of Warhammer spice too, to make sure they stand out above the rest. I mean, come on now, we all know dwarfs are industrious craftsmen, but how often do you see them with helicopters? I'd wager not very often. The dwarfs of Warhammer Fantasy bring forth the best of arms, armor, and more to the hellish world they live in. They're outnumbered exponentially by basically everyone else, they're hamstrung by their own culture and traditions. But by God, if is it impressive to see an army of armored Dowie on the warpath ready to kick someone's teeth in, because 1,000 years ago, their great-great-great-grandpa called a dwarf a moderately rude name. So tell me, viewer, do you like advanced technology while at the same time hating advanced technology?
Is that McCason? Sorry, there's a character, and he's kind of like a mad scientist guy, and he's a slayer. Okay, I've not looked up Art of McCason, but I figured that was what he looked like.
Do you like writing anything wrong done to you, even if it'd really be better to just let it go?
In my
Are
diary.
You short? Then why don't you see if the dwarfs of Warhammer Fantasy are the army for you? But before I begin, do you know if you're browsing the internet safely or with any real degree of privacy? Well, if you're like most people, the answer is probably not really. Well, if you want a surefire way to be sure of that, the sponsor of this video, ExpressVPN, can help with that. ExpressVPN has quite a few uses, but the main ones are online privacy, data security, and content unblocking. Did you know that in the US, your data is free to be sold to basically anyone by your internet service provider, and in the UK and Australia, they keep logs of whatever website you visit for 1 to 2 years? Well, ExpressVPN can shut all this down by encrypting and rerouting 100% of your network traffic through their secure servers, so your browsing history is kept private from corporations like your ISP, advertisers, or data brokers. As someone who doesn't enjoy companies knowing their every single move, this is quite nice. Also, because of the encryption I mentioned, ExpressVPN does more than keep your information private. It also keeps you safe from would-be hackers and thieves who might be on the same Wi-Fi, which is a feature good for anyone logging onto a public Wi-Fi who doesn't want some random schmuck deciding they now have unfiltered access to your debit card. And of course, it lets you unblock content from around the world. Most streaming platforms like Netflix have different content libraries based on the country you log in from, with some countries outright restricting access to
I was so annoyed. One time I went on a trip out of the country and I wanted to watch a show. And I didn't realize they did this. And so I was watching, like, I wanted to watch my show in another country and it wouldn't let me. I was like, what? I was kind of upset. Because I was bored. I didn't have anything else to do.
A lot of media that the rest of the world has access to. Did you know that Return of the King is not available on US Netflix? Well, I didn't until I was very confused one day and wanted to watch it. Well, with ExpressVPN, now my fellow Americans can simply switch themselves over to another country and watch it to their heart's content.
Yes.
And of course, ExpressVPN is also the fastest VPN around, can connect up to 14 devices simultaneously, and is rated #1 by CNET, The Verge, and PC World, among several others, just for a few more things it has going for it. To keep your internet history and data secure, accept no substitutes. Find out how you can get up to 4 extra months by clicking the link in the description box below, scanning the QR code on screen, or by going to expressvpn.com/pancreas.
I'm
You
sorry,
can never be too safe
hiding the
online, so get
QR code.
ExpressVPN today to make sure you're as safe as you can possibly be.
Sorry.
Now then, get ready to strike a grudge from the book and add 10 more, because as we all know,
But the great book of grudges remains full.
as with most of the other fantasy races, the dwarfs get their start as a creation of the Old Ones. If memory serves, they're actually the second race created after the Old Ones declared the elves weren't quite what they wanted. The elves of fantasy wielded amazing arcane might, but they were too frail and potentially prone to just following their own
Bird
random
bones.
whims to be reliable enough to achieve guaranteed wins against chaos. With that in mind, the Old Ones basically went the complete opposite route with the dwarfs. They created a race of sturdy beings that could hold fast against anything, one who not only couldn't use magic, but in a sufficient enough gathering of dwarfs, magic outright won't work on them. They made them so they'd always uphold their debts and keep their bargains, being that could never
I
be
do
enthralled by
admire
Chaos's
that.
schemes. Unfortunately, course-correcting so hard to the other end of the spectrum wasn't what the Old Ones wanted either. Their stubbornness and adherence to tradition kept Chaos from corrupting them, but it turned out to be limiting when Chaos pulled out their trickier schemes. Not being able to use magic and focusing on material crafts did help them create some damn fine wonders, including harnessing magic in the safest way possible, but it ended up being more of a weakness than anything at the end of the day. Turns out, being able to throw fireballs the size of houses at people is really helpful when demons
Yes.
are attacking. Also, while they can't be corrupted really, they can still freely join Chaos if they want. As proof, see the Chaos Dwarfs. But they weren't an abject failure, same as the elves, so the Old Ones let them keep existing and gave them the mountains of the world to call home. As for the dwarf version of their origins, they don't take into account anything on the Old Ones or anything of the sort. Kinda funny in a way, because the elves, at least in some regards, are very much aware of the Old Ones and even have conversations about how that affects their religion sometimes.
Oh, that's
but
interesting.
No, the dwarfs in their own stories say they were shaped from the mountains by the first dwarfs, the beings that would become their ancestor gods. They were the gods Grimnir, Grungni, and the goddess Valaya. Grimnir was a war god, bringing low the enemies of the dwarfs and keeping his children safe. Grungni taught the dwarfs the secrets of runesmithing, how to capture magic and magical runes for safe use. And Valaya did everything.
That makes a lot of sense because in Demon Slayer, there is spoilers. There is a giant blimp that they call the Spirit of Grumney. And I didn't know that Grumney was, one of their gods. But that makes a lot of sense, given the context.
Else. I am not exaggerating. She was also apparently married to both Grimnir and Grungni, which is how the dwarf race came to be, meaning that aside from the fact inbreeding started rather quickly in this tale, it also means that just about every dwarf can be said to in some way relate to their gods directly. When Chaos showed up, unlike some of the other races, the
Getting
dwarfs did
freaky
not
with the
take the
dwarves.
fight to the demons. Grimnir did, I guess, but in spite of being a god, he is just one dwarf. The dwarfs as a whole had a different approach. Shut the gates to their holds, bolt the locks, and resoundingly declare it was not their problem outside. Grimnir marched north to the realm of chaos. Valaya locked herself in a vault to gather magical strength, since she was a god and magic is allowed to her apparently, and I don't actually think Grungni did anything too special. Eventually things calmed down due to the efforts of the elves and lizardmen, and the dwarfs re-emerged. From there, the two elder races of the elves and dwarfs would meet, and things were good. While the dwarfs had made contact with man, this was the Tomb Kings who compared to them were fairly primitive. Presumably this happened after Cetra had already passed away, as otherwise he would have wiped the floor with the entirety of the Karazhan Corps for their dismissive attitude towards his people. And to be fair to the dwarfs, it was mostly contact with pre-Empire Old World humanity, so barbarians and cavemen. But the elves were another advanced and cultured race, and so they got along just fine. Special
We like the elves here. I saw the thumbnail implying Sigvald the sleazeballs your fantasy came here to judge you. You got clickbaited. Thank you for the super chat. You got clickbaited. He's not my fantasy. No, Sanguinius is. Sanguinius is. We're allowed to judge people here. I mean, this is the dwarf video. You are allowed to judge people, but only for the duration of this video.
Cavemen, but the elves were another advanced and cultured race, and so they got along just fine. Special mention to Malekith and the dwarf who, spoiler alert, would become Grombrindle, as they had such a legendary friendship that the future Dark Elf King was allowed to bear witness to the dwarf's death. The elves learned how to build and engineer better than ever, and the dwarfs, with the elves' help, refined their runecraft to unparalleled levels. Things were good. And then, it was all downhill for the dwarfs. By contrast, even the elves at least have brief periods where they can rebuild just a little bit. The dwarfs would go through sack tap after sack tap until basically the end of the setting. It started small with some cracks in the alliance with the elves, or rather now the High Elves, since Malekith and Morathi had already taken their followers to Naggaroth by this point. Dwarf cultural differences with the elves sometimes made meetings awkward. I'm sure you've seen the scene with Legolas and Gimli drinking.
Love that.
Elves are refined and fairly low-key as far as social situations go, with small gestures speaking volumes to them, and they typically don't cause massive scenes. Dwarves love chugging barrels of booze at every noteworthy occasion and are loud and happy to get in your face. Not in a rude way, or
like
at least
it.
a malicious way, but they're a very boastful and, again, loud people. Little social differences like that piled up, but relations were still mostly good. The dwarfs supposedly even helped out the High Elves a bit when the Dark Elves first formed, not really understanding the idea of a civil war, but they did at least help out the Asur with some arms for cheaper costs. Then things got worse.
Oh no, it got worse. Sanguinius makes up for all sins, so it's worth another super. Thank you, Gingerbread. I'm glad you agree. Sanguinius is the best. He is my Angel Hawk boy. I love him. It's how I got into Warhammer. True story. It really is.
The grudge help out the Asur with some arms for cheaper costs. Then things got worse. The Grudge of Drong was an old Warhammer fantasy box whose lore set the stage for what was to come. TLDR, the two dwarf holds went to war, the elves went to help one of the holds as they were trading partners, and then the two warring dwarfs decided to beat the snot out of the elves together instead. So tensions were getting a bit worse and would culminate a few decades after this. On the dwarf side, we have High King Gotrek Starbreaker. He was neither a slayer nor, that Gotrek, but the few images we have of him are giving...
I was like... Okay, cool.
away the ending a bit, so pretend he just looked like the Gotrek everyone knows for a little. He was a pretty reasonable king.
Cool.
Solid guy all around, I'd say. On the elf side, we have Kalador II, who is best known by the elves for being a colossal screw-up, and as for the dwarfs, they remember him by having two different titles for him to say he has sex with animals. He was arrogant to the extreme, and shall we say a little racially
Because these are his coward, friendless, irredeemable, thin, goat lover, goat warrior. That's kind of funny. Frightened of loud noises. Zapale the princess. Incredible. I'm still... Yikes. This is not a good list, man.
sensitive, not caring for the dwarfs. Malekith saw this little prick was in charge and hatched a plan to divide the high elves and dwarfs so in his future invasions of Ulthuan, the dwarfs wouldn't help. It worked, but far better than he could ever have hoped for. Malekith had some dark elf assassins dress up as high elves and attack dwarf caravans, leaving behind evidence to make it look like high elves did it. Classic false flag attack stuff. Gotrek Starbreaker initially responded incredibly calmly, especially for a dwarf, because in a missive to the Phoenix King, Kalador, all he asked for in recompense was an explanation as to what happened. All Kalador 2 needed to do was say, hey, that civil war problem we had a while ago was kind of kept going, and they did it. That's it. And if he wanted to be nice, maybe a fruit basket for the families of the dead dwarfs. Instead, he didn't even meet with the ambassadors of this inferior race.
What?
Now Gotrek was being insulted, and naturally a bit suspicious, so he now demanded payment in gold for what was lost as well as for the dead dwarfs. This is, again, still a completely reasonable request.
Yeah.
Kalador 2 responded by shaving the ambassador's beard. You don't do that to a dwarf, and now...
That's so bad. You don't do that. Look, I don't know a lot about dwarfs, but like... You don't do that. You done messed up. You've messed up. Oh god, it gets worse. No, it can't.
It's time for bloodshed. Oh, and you don't need to worry about those Dark Elf assassins from the beginning anymore, by the way. I'm sure they won't cause the world any more catastrophic harm by helping give rise to, say, the father of necromancy.
Oh,
the War of the
yeah.
Beard to the High Elves and War of Vengeance to the Dwarves began, essentially fantasy World War I. The two sides decimated each other, with high elf colonies burning and dwarf holds being reduced to rubble. The war ended with Gotrek cutting off Kalidor's head and taking the Phoenix Crown, officially
Honestly,
striking out the grudge that caused the war. But
yeah.
the war had shattered the trust the races had in each other, and for the dwarfs put many more entries into the Book of Grudges than were crossed out. Never again would the dwarfs and elves trust each other, now regarding each other as natural enemies rather than what should be the greatest of friends.
That's a shame.
And then, as I said, things got worse. The Time of Woes began, which from the name I'm sure you can guess how that's gonna go. The start of the Time of
Yep.
Woes began with two events colliding, one fairly innocuous on paper, and one that was a Skaven project, so you already know that's evil. For the former, the Slann were looking at some plaques and decided the feng shui of the planet needed a bit of realigning. The Slann being Slann, this was done by physically moving entire bits of the planet around, primarily mountains. Dwarf holds are
Oh.
sturdy, but not so sturdy that if someone started moving a mountain a few dozen feet to the left, there wouldn't be tremendous damage. That on its own
Yeah,
already would
that's
have been
rough.
awful, but the Skavens simultaneously decided to expand Skavendom a decent bit with some extremely large machine or other. The Skaven being the Skaven, the machine blew up, which did expand their tunnel networks, but also somehow blew up across almost every mountain in the old world. I think it also actually killed most of the Skaven alive at the time, but that was
Yeah, it
undone in a
has
month
to, right?
tops, and more importantly for this video, it blew apart what was left of a lot of the dwarfs' holdings. The Underway, the underground highway they used to connect their entire civilization, was in many parts completely collapsed or flooded with
Yeah,
lava,
that's
and just about
really
all of
bad.
it sustained heavy damage. Entire holds collapsed outright between these two events. And worst of all of this damage paved the way for massive amounts of greenskins to get access to dwarf holds. Countless of them fell over the span of just a few years, including to the opportunistic
this is
Skaven,
rough.
who
I didn't
figured they might
realize-
as well take advantage of this happy little accident.
I didn't realize they had it so bad.
A few hundred years later, Karak 8 Peaks, the second greatest hold they had, also falls to goblin attacks. This particular hold would then, for the rest of the setting's history, become a never-ending three-way battle between goblins, Skaven, and the dwarfs trying to reclaim it. They did for a little while have a Silver Age beginning around year 0 of the Empire of Man's calendar, which is no coincidence as it was in part brought about by Sigmar helping them clear out plenty of greenskins from their territory.
Very
Sigmar
based
really
and
hated
cool.
orcs, possibly more than he did chaos, so he had no problem lending a hand when they asked. Quite frankly, I imagine they probably would have to sometimes tell him to chill out and take it slow after he would dive into the deepest pit of a hold like that one meme of Kratos free-falling. Some new inventions were made and things were all around pretty alright. Then it was back to slowly losing ground inch by inch against Greenskins and Skaven, because they had their chance to breathe, so it was time for the sack taps to come back. By the time of the Great War against Chaos, which is only a few years ahead of where the old world is at the moment in the timeline, the dwarfs were in perhaps the worst spot they'd ever been in. Millennia of losing territory to their enemies and the slow dwindling of their population has left the Dawi facing the fall of their empire for good. They're a disunited people, with the Great War against Chaos as reigning High King, making specific note of the fact that many of the lesser kings of the dwarfs were not nearly as helpful against the threat as they should have been. Things do not look good for the everlasting realm, but fear not. Though diminished, they've made sure that every inch they lose is covered in the blood of their enemies before it's lost.
I like this art.
A single dwarf warrior may fall, but it'll take 10 greenskins or Skaven down with him as he does. Their
Hey.
armor is unmatched, their weapons the pinnacle of engineering in the world, and their spirit unbroken still. The dwarfs are on the warpath, and though this is cheating with meta-knowledge a bit, in a few decades a youngish dwarf named Thorgrim will return to start the Age of Reckoning and bring a fervor not seen in thousands of years back
Ooh.
to this ailing people. And maybe, just maybe, your army will be ready for him when he comes. Let's see if they're the army for you now, how about? First off for this bit, the dwarfs are pretty standard dwarfs. That might sound like a backhanded statement, but I don't mean it as such.
No, I didn't-
like classic fantasy archetypes,
not
and as much as Age of
backhanded.
Sigmar making things like the Kharadron Overlords is cool as hell, sometimes I just want to have a dwarf. And these guys sure enough fit that archetype perfectly. They're expert craftsmen who place great value on their work, live underground, tunneling through the mountains for riches. They're greedy little bastards, but honest in their word, and when they give you an oath, you better believe they'll do everything in their power in order to fulfill it.
I really
It's
like
cool to
that
see.
side of
If that's
them.
the kind of vibe you love too, then you
Yes.
know better than these brave dwarfs. But they still have that Warhammer spice to keep them interesting. In this case, a lot of it is exaggerating dwarf characteristics to extreme levels. All dwarfs are craftsmen and love a good smithing project. In Warhammer, dwarves dwarfs creating magical runes involves the most esoteric nonsense on the planet that must be done in order to do it right. They must perfectly carve the rune, and the metal they've engraved it into must be cooled at exactly midnight on the 3rd Saturday of the 12th month by dipping it into troll's blood backwards. Dwarfs in all settings love a good drink. There's a unit in the game that makes dwarfs move faster because they want to catch up to it. It's a beer cart. Dwarf beer in Warhammer Fantasy can also be used to feed a dwarf for days, or as fuel for vehicles. Good luck if you ever try any. And of course, grudges must be mentioned. No proper dwarf in any setting will accept a slight against them, but in Warhammer Fantasy, the dwarfs are psychologically incapable of letting bygones be bygones. They will demand immediate restitution, and if such is not settled, into the Book of Grudges goes the offense. It's very simple. Once a grudge is entered, there are typically only 2 ways to complete it. Sometimes a price in gold or material will be accepted as payment for a grudge. It can theoretically be as simple as that. In practice, most grudges are solved with the death of the offending party. And while some dwarf fans will likely say this is exaggeration or only limited to some of the goofier bits of lore, allow me to tell you some of the more fantastical grudges. I'm sure you're familiar with people in fiction listing off reasons someone sucks while they hand them their ass. See Goku beating the shit out of Frieza, among plenty of other examples. In the end times, and this is one of those few end times moments where it was awesome, Thorgrim killed the Skaven character Queek Headtaker while listing off every single thing he did to earn a grudge. Badass, but not too silly yet. Well, consider this one Godric and Felix side character. He was a dwarf who said he hadn't spoken to his cousin in decades and had him in his own personal book of grudges because he didn't pay a bar tab once. There was an instance where a human city accidentally shorted the dwarfs 2 coins on payment for building it, whereupon the dwarf settled the grudge by leveling the entire city. Even in universe, some dwarfs dispute this tale, but it's important to note that just as many dwarfs consider it a valuable lesson on why you should never short a dwarf. But of course, the ultimate to me is a grudge against a mountain. A landslide killed a bunch of dwarfs once, whereupon they swore revenge against the goddamn mountain, and then strip-mined it to pieces. It doesn't matter that dwarfs aren't fast. If they say they're coming to get revenge, you can be damn sure they're on their way to at least try. And just to top it off, the great book of grudges their High King has not only has the greatest of all wrongs against the dwarf people in it, but new entries are written in the High King's blood. Imagine pissing someone off so much they cut open their hand and start writing just what you did with their blood so they can take revenge later on. That's awesome. If you hate the idea of anyone wronging you and getting away with it, you're a dwarf player, and you just don't know it yet. Aside from that, they also differ from dwarfs in the extremes they take their engineering skills. Dwarf engineering usually means some fairly mundane stuff, all things considered. The finest of blades and armor, that kind of deal. In Warhammer Fantasy, the dwarfs have helicopters. They have flamethrowers and cannons that can rip asunder anyone who looks at them funny, with technology basically no one else can hope to match. The Skaven in theory surpass dwarf tech, but dwarf tech has the advantage of not blowing up.
They only surpass it in theory because they've got warpstone, which maybe makes it do more damage.
If you look at it wrong. So if you like the idea of being technologically advanced in a fantasy setting, but also dislike the idea of your tech being as volatile as, well, Skaven technology, then the dwarfs are for you. Bit of an odd one here, but I'd say the dwarfs are also perfect for fans of the Roman Empire, or those who appreciate playing as a long-standing, powerful empire in general. Much of the scientific and religious language of the empire, for example, is in Khazalid, the language of the dwarfs. They've given the empire much of the foundations of what it would become, and they themselves have streaks of the Byzantine Empire amongst themselves. They're a remnant of a bygone era where they ruled much of the world, and though weakened, still continue to influence the world in a variety of ways and have no small amount of military force backing them up. If that idea speaks to you, I'd recommend the dwarfs too. They're also firmly on the good guy side of things, if in that Warhammer way where they still do plenty of brutal killing, like that 2 coins for a city business earlier. Dwarfs don't actually like war. They try to avoid it, and remember that the goddess who gave them most of their culture and civilization was not a war goddess. Per Barden and Vermintide, among other sources, Valaya is most pleased when you're welcoming someone into your house and offering them a pint of beer.
That sounds
When they go
great.
to war, it isn't just for the sake of glory, though of course dwarfs are happy to seek some glory. They do it to avenge wrongs to their people, to set right what they believe to be a fundamental wrongdoing. Anything that isn't that kind of war is them crusading against genuine threats to all that is good, such as vampires and chaos. Plenty of grudges are by our standards nonsense and should just be gotten over, which is something I'll return to later. But I would argue that there's not a single dwarf grudge that was pursued out of selfish desires, at least in the sense of only inflating someone else's pockets or whatever and using it as a motivation.
Okay, fair.
And
I was gonna say
they help the other races when they can. Even the elves they helped, as the modern day of Warhammer Fantasy rolled around and Thorgrim Grudgebearer took the seat of High King. They're the reason the Empire is still around. They taught mankind smithing, how to make gunpowder and weapons, how to make buildings that weren't animal skin tents. They are the reason the Empire is great,
Dang.
because among the three...
So they taught humans like a ton of stuff. Like the really, really, really important stuff that you need to like make sure your city survives, your civilization survives. Dang, humans could not figure out how to build things with stones. That's a bit shameful.
Things that make it great. Without the dwarfs, they'd have no steel or gunpowder. Only faith, and faith alone does not drive back the chaos hordes. For all the dwarf culture has issues, they are firmly on the side of good, so if you think those players reveling in chaotic carnage need a good sack tap of their own, the dwarfs are right up your alley. Dwarfs are also an excellent pick for those of you who want a good comeback or underdog story. There is no race as down on their luck as the dwarfs are. While the Empire is always besieged, it is also repeatedly stated to be the greatest nation of men in the entire old world. And beyond that, mankind being dominant in Warhammer Fantasy is not an uncommon theme to hear about. It's constantly under threat from all sides, but at the end of the day, mankind is fine, even if the Empire may not be. Disregarding the end times, of course, as always. Even the High Elves are fairly safe on a moment-to-moment basis, being thousands of miles away from most threats on their island of Ulthuan. The Dwarfs, meanwhile, in some hold or other, are pretty much always under attack. They fight Skaven and Greenskins the most, but they fight just about everyone else plenty too. Chaos is a frequent enemy, but even the undead will seek to raid dwarf holds as well, if only because zombies and dwarf armor will be quite a bit sturdier than what they normally are. The deck is stacked against them. That hasn't stopped the dwarfs from playing a winning hand before, and it won't stop you either. Are you a stubborn asshole? Because the dwarfs are great for you then. They just do not give up, and I don't just mean on the battlefield. They will refuse to admit they are wrong unless you can essentially get one of their gods to tell them otherwise. Their ways are set in stone. They will follow those ways, and anything to the contrary is irrelevant. You could show a dwarf a mathematical equation on why some aspects of how they do things in their day-to-day life is objectively hurting them, and they'll just call you a wazzock and probably write you in their personal book of grudges afterwards. Oof. I'm sure you can see how this can cause them no small amount of trouble in the cons section later, but there is something to be said about sticking to your guns. They may die on whatever hill they choose to, but chances are they'll take you with them. And for a final lore positive, do you hate elves with 99% of your heart? Everything about those prancy little princesses pisses you off to no end, and I'm sure I don't need to tell you that the dwarfs are right up your alley. Part of an old dwarf saying is that if you mistrust an elf, you can do no wrong. They do not like the elves. Even after the Old World's era in the timeline, when the elf Finnabar was repairing relations, most dwarves would still happily take their axes to the first elf they saw. In one of the Gotrek and Felix books, Gotrek nearly allowed a magical artifact to be used to essentially drown the coastlines of the Old World. His reason for this? Because it would also drown Ulthuan, which would be entirely worth it for all the dead elves. If you hate elves more than almost anyone, just play dwarfs. You'll be content.
I didn't know that.
Of course, I said almost anyone, and hating them with 99% of your heart, because no one hates elves more than Pellinal Whitestrake. I'm sorry, dwarf players, but you simply cannot match the wrath of the Shezarene.
I'm torn, because I really like dwarves, because, like... Sorry, dwarfs. Keep saying dwarves. Dwarfs. Because like I like that they're honorable, they're upright, and you know the grudges thing is kind of whatever, but I like their vibe in general. But I also like elves. I mean, you're allowed to like both, but it feels like you're not supposed to like both because they're so diametrically opposed. I'm torn. Because I really like both, but I think I like lean a little bit more towards elves. My first crush was Legolas from you know, Lord of the Rings. So I feel like that set me on a path, and I don't think I can recover from it, unfortunately. So I think honestly that's why. Did not have a crush on Gimli. Like the character, but never had a crush on him, so...
Because I have some anger to work through, let's go over some special things about them before I go over the basics.
I don't know anything about tabletop
stuff. Dwarves can't take any generic magical items in the rulebook. Instead, they can get powerful runic magic items, which essentially act as the same thing, with the rulebook even stating that the same rules for them apply to runic items as well. With that said, there's also 5 more caveats to go over. 1. No item can have more than 3 runes on it, obviously for balancing, but in the lore it's because nothing can handle more than that much runic magic. 2. You have to put runes on their corresponding equipment. enchantment. No putting an armor rune on a weapon, lest you break with sacred tradition. Maybe it also just can't work like that, but I'm assuming any dwarf who tries something like that, even if it could work, is in for a 10-hour-long dressing down at the least. 3. You can't repeat rune combinations, be that for loadouts of 1, 2, or 3 runes. You can have the same rune multiple times, but if one model only has it and nothing else, another model better have another rune to go with it. This is outright called the Rune of Pride, and the explanation is that runesmiths are prideful shits who don't like people copying their work. 4. Each master rune can only be used once per army. And 5. Unless specifically stated otherwise, you can't stack multiple of the same rune. This was a rather lengthy explanation for a single thing as small as this, relatively speaking, and the reason for that is because dwarf runes are absolutely insane. For 100 points, give someone a toughness characteristic of 10. Those of you from 40k might be thinking, well, that ain't too high. Yes it is. Toughness alongside every other stat caps out at 10 in the old world. You can just give the highest toughness score in the game to some random asshole willy-nilly.
No, that's crazy. What the heck? That's busted. 100 points? Dwarfs are best. If you think not, we're taking you out back to fight. You're not taking me anywhere. I'm staying right here. Thank you for the bits, Red Tail Wolf. I'm sorry. Bonkers.
A model d6 wounds per attack in a game where a lord on a dragon barely reaches 10 wounds. Add an extra dice when dispelling an enemy spell. Dwarfs aren't just limited to runic items because they're dwarfs and can't use normal magic. They don't need normal magic items. As a final quick little note on runic magic here, runesmiths, rune lords, and the Anvil of Doom can dispel enemy spells. Runesmith dispels as if they were a level 1 wizard, rune lords level 2, and the Anvil of Doom a level 3 wizard. Now for the more general stuff that pisses me off. First off, toughness. If you want an army that just won't die, the dwarfs are an excellent choice. Heavy armor is basically army-wide, giving you an immediate 5-up armor save before anything else comes into play. Shields can easily bump that up to a 4-up save, and full-plate armor isn't all that uncommon either, meaning a 3-up armor save is a frequent occurrence here. Again, for those of you watching primarily into 40k, the old world by comparison is not that lethal of a game. Chunking through a unit takes time unless it's a unit of like 5 dudes for some unknown reason. With the dwarf's armor save, that is going to take some time. But wait, it gets worse. Or better, I guess. Gromroll armor is a special rule a lot of dwarf models have. It lets them reroll failed armor saves of 1. Now, follow me through on this thought exercise from hell. You have a unit of dwarf iron breakers armed with shields. They have a 3-up armor save and gromroll armor, so they're rerolling all of those save throws of 1.
Yes.
You are basically only taking wounds on a 2. Because if
much.
you roll a 1, you get another chance to roll a 3 or higher. If someone brings a bunch of archers against you if you're running this unit, laugh at them. Laugh as their shitty bowmen open fire against your iron breakers for 3 turns straight, only to take out a single guy the whole time. And I would know, because I was the guy getting laughed at. Basically, every dwarf infantry unit also counts as heavy infantry incidentally, meaning they only need to be lined up in a row of 4 models to get rank bonus. Very helpful. And with them all being toughness 4 at least, lighter strength models are going to have a hard time wounding them on that alone. Leadership is also a stat that dwarfs excel in. Leadership 9 is standard, because dwarfs can comprehend the horrors perfectly well and they simply aren't impressed by what they're seeing. In lore, sometimes long-beard dwarfs will loudly boast that the enemies they used to face were 10 times as strong as the pathetic enemies they do nowadays, such as the sheer stubborn heroism of this race. That's actually a mechanic where nearby units to longbeards can reroll failed panic tests. Although, again, with Leadership 9 minimum army-wide, you probably don't need it. I'm not gonna say that routing them is impossible, because in 2 games I've had something of mine chase down and slaughter fleeing dwarfs, but the majority of the time you can rest easy knowing your dwarfs are gonna be in the thick of combat and perfectly fine for it. The rules Stubborn and Resolute also help this in some ways. A lot of units have the Stubborn keyword, meaning they can choose to fall back in good order, while Resolute means they always subtract 1 from fleeing or pursuing rolls. Essentially, they aren't moving for anything even if the morale checks don't go your way and it's time to bug out. And even if that does happen, a lot of the time they won't flee outright, but instead just calmly march back a few paces and reform the battle line. Between this and the aforementioned toughness they have, moving a properly positioned dwarf battle line is going to be a monumental task. But of course, we aren't done with the various ways dwarfs tell their opponents to get bent. The entire army has at least magic resistance 1, with some units having magic resistance 2. While in some books this is taken to insane levels, like Godric and Malachi McKyson face-tanking a wizard's Kamehameha and calling him a bitch, this is still a nice and free way to ensure anyone running wizards against you is going to struggle that much more, if only if they keep trying to blast you with spells. Do take note that this doesn't help you against magical weapons. Those still hit you just fine.
Oh, okay,
the
just
range
magic,
game is
magic.
also excellent, as is fitting for an army outfitted with only the finest of crest warship. Quarrelers and Thunderers are fairly standard range units as far as crossbowmen and handgunners go, but they do have the dwarf-crafted special rule. If they shoot into a unit that's charging them, this rule means they don't have a -1 to hit. Not the most glamorous rule, but certainly helpful, and since they not only have heavy armor, but can either have shields or great weapons, they too aren't going down easy even if they do get charged. But their 5 pieces of artillery are really what makes them stand out. A bolt thrower is a cheap artillery piece that can cut through weaker elite units like butter, and if
Man.
you're the asshole I played against the old world last time, you keep rolling 6s on your through and through rolls and obliterate an entire rank of swordmasters of Hoeth. A grudge thrower is a catapult that you can put
Yikes.
dwarf runes on to ruin someone's day with. The dwarf cannon is the same thing, but a cannon. Light it and beware anyone running monstrous units
like
because
the
it is
artillery
a
shell
cannon.
he's got
An
in
organ
there.
gun isn't actually too high in strength, but you get 2d6 hits every time you fire it. If you roll well on that and pick your targets right, you can potentially take out a good quarter of your opponent's army before the fighting is even started. And the flame cannon. Make anyone
Oh, that
playing
looks
Tomb Kings
sick.
against you feel very, very upset as you tell them where they can shove their regen save. I like how one of the crew has a little flag. He's really excited to be cooking you alive. For some final few touches, the dwarfs are all solid in melee. They aren't warriors of chaos or anything, but as I said with the ranged infantry earlier, they can all take great weapons if they want. Your heavy hitters like Iron Breakers of course are coming in strong, but even the basic warriors are going to be a bitch to fight if only because they've pretty much won the attrition game by default. And Slayers are pretty good once they get stuck in, with weapon skill 4 for normal ones and 5 for giant
Their
Slayers.
feet are
Not only can
massive.
they attack
Holy
on death,
cow.
but if you roll a 4 up to wound, you always wound, so their strength being 3 and 4 respectively isn't actually something to really worry about. You also have army-wide free hatred against greenskins for everyone.
Nice.
While I focused more on the elves earlier because it's funnier to most people, there isn't a single race the dwarfs hate more than the greenskins. In their mind, every dwarf travesty is either a direct result of the greenskins or came about from greenskins taking advantage of their weakened state. So during the first round of combat against a unit of greenskins, enjoy your free rerolls to hit without you having to actually do anything to get it. They've also got a few movement things to work with, though you better
That's
believe they'll
really
be returned to
good.
the army as a whole on this front later. The miners can appear on another table edge than the rest of your army, or take a free move at the start of the game. And gyrocopters and gyrobombers are helicopters, so naturally they fly quick-ish, in
That's
addition
so
to dropping
cool.
bombs on people you don't like. Their characters are also nice to see. Engineers make your artillery better, runelords and smiths give a unit flaming attacks, and kings and thanes are your standard lord choices. You can put them in an oath stone if
I
you like,
love
which
these
means any
minis. These
challenges
look
they
so
issue can't be
cool.
refused. A cool ability, and also that model is just Belagar Ironhammer. You can also use the guy carried by shield bearers, which not only counts as 4 models and can thus fill in the ranks of another unit, but is also
It definitely has a different vibe for a shield bearer. Usually, you don't carry the guy and the shield at the same time, but I love it. It's such a vibe.
nearly the only cavalry in the dwarf roster. Behold the pinnacle of dwarf horsemanship. You know it's dwarf cavalry because there's no actual horses involved. And the Slayers of Legends, for when you want something to die really badly and you don't mind the goofy striped pants. And to end on named characters, let's start with Ungrim Iron Fist. He has a 4-up
Dang.
armor save and 5-up ward, he has toughness 6, and he has a weapon skill of 9. There are a variety of things Ungrim does, and for the Slayer army, he's the named Lord choice. But to keep things simple, here's how you use Ungrim. Find an enemy model you don't like. Send Ungrim after it. When he eventually gets there, it dies. If you want to try and make Slayers work, he's your best bet. Burlock Damonson is GW reaching into their bag of old lore and pulling out this fella. He's a better engineer, basically. Not the most spectacular of things like Ungrim is,
He's
but it's
got
hard to go
quite the
wrong with that kind of
mustache.
thing,
Wow.
especially in an artillery-heavy list
Beautiful
like the
mustache.
Expeditionary Force Detachment. And to round us off, Thorgrim Ulliksson. You likely know him better by his future last name, Grudge Bearer. He may not be High King yet, but the grudges will be settled, and indeed Thorgrim's Grudge Lore rule and Grudgestone weapon mean that at any point, the unit he's in becomes unbreakable to completely ignore morale and gains hatred. Everyone. He has a ward save against
Wow.
Killing Blow and multiple wounds attacks just to make sure he doesn't get sniped immediately, and the Grudge Settler melee weapon, which is a fairly high strength multi-wound weapon with some AP. grudges will be settled, and the dwarfs will never rout under his command. As a final tabletop upside, most of the dwarf models have held up quite nicely. Dwarfs are short guys in heavy armor, and sure enough, that's most of the dwarfs roster. They don't have the most dynamic opposes, but they don't need them more than any other army. They're
Yeah,
dwarfs in a
really.
rank and flank game. I want a solid unbreaking line of metal, and they provide. I promise I will attempt to keep my elven sensibilities in check here. Let's start off with an easy one. The dwarfs are well past their prime. That isn't anything too uncommon with fantasy.
Yikes,
in fact,
yeah.
it's the standard for pretty much everyone that isn't a human, chaos, or an ogre. But it's really bad with the dwarfs because, as I said, they've never really gotten many chances to take a breath and recover. They had that Silver Age sort of deal where new inventions popped up and Sigmar helped them out, and then it was back to misery. They've been fighting every step of the way and never go down easy, and on a meta level, Thorgrim's ascension to High King is a spot of hope for them that's relatively speaking right around the corner. But even then, the path forward for the dwarfs is harder than any other, so if you don't want an army that the lore seems determined to hurt, you'd best look elsewhere. Not helping this is the next multi-part point, which is that the dwarfs are not helping themselves with their attitudes towards, well, a lot. Let's start with grudges. Grudges are very cool.
Oh.
No one will ever say otherwise.
Yes,
I certainly
I
won't
agree.
at least. But dwarfs simply do not let them go. Grudges will be made for the smallest of things sometimes, as I discussed earlier, but even when a grudge is completely warranted, pursuing it may not be. The problem goes like this. A dwarf creates a grudge due to a wrongdoing, and I'll be kind here and say that it is justified. To right it, they marshal their forces and march out against the enemy. There's every chance they'll fail and the army is wiped out, which obviously weakens them. Alternatively, they succeed. Hooray, grudge wiped. In the process of striking it out of the book, they no doubt still took casualties, creating more grudges that have to be wronged. In this way, have the dwarves spiraled into having a book of grudges that can never be fulfilled without creating twice as many to erase later. And that's
It's
assuming the
tragic.
grudge written actually makes sense and isn't them being petty. But of course, there is literally no word for forgiveness in the dwarf language.
See, it's their greatest, like, it's really cool, but it is their greatest flaw and tragedy that their grudges is kind of what makes them who they are, but it's also it's like their Achilles heel. Pride.
They cannot let bygones be bygones, even when they should just accept losses and move on. Aside from this meaning they've only continued digging the hole they find themselves in, it also makes dealing with them potentially dangerous and can be off-putting to other races. The wrong word might end with a strong alliance turning into bitter enemies because you called one of them a bit short-tempered without really thinking that phrase through. There being no word for forgiveness doesn't just extend to other races, though. No. It extends to themselves too. What do you think a slayer is? Those are what happens when a dwarf does something
Ew,
that cannot
oh.
be forgiven no matter what, be it by
Ew.
themselves or society at large.
Feels really
Given how
bad.
clannish dwarfs are, that difference by and large doesn't exist. If a dwarf goes too far, they shave most of their head, dye the remaining mohawk red or orange, and go find something to kill until something kills them. Funerals are held for slayers because they're going to die, it's just a matter of when. Once you've crossed the line in dwarf society, there is no coming back, and no matter how promising a career you might have had, or even if you might have otherwise somehow saved the dwarfs from their degradation, it doesn't matter. You will be dying in battle. The most extreme thing happened when the dwarfs discovered the Chaos Dwarfs, because they just skipped right over the Slayer Oath part.
Yeah.
Every direct family member of one of the Chaos Dwarfs killed themselves out of shame. All of the above is all.
Bro, that's so sad. Oh man, that's so sad and just messed up. That's rough.
Awesome though, but it also comes with a probably not even thought about assumption that going too far is some grave sin. You get other dwarfs killed by way of incompetence, something like that. And yeah, sometimes that's the reason for the Slayer Oath. Sometimes the reason for taking the Slayer Oath, though, is because they lost too much money on Monday poker night, which is rather silly. Warhammer silly, but still silly. Every now and again, a young dwarf does try to seek to be a bit more forgiving, or weary elders try to lay down their arms, and then their gods themselves intervene. Once two dwarf holds were fighting each other for so long that they forgot what the original grudge was even about. When they went to forgive each other, a statue of their gods crashed on their heads, killing them. Grimnir demands you settle those grudges, and if you don't, he'll settle
dang.
things permanently. Their
Okay.
non-stop self-destructive
Wow.
spiral is divinely mandated, so unlike most other Warhammer armies, don't think your homebrew army is going to get away from all the homegrown hatred the dwarves cultivate. Not unless you want every battle you fight to end with, and then Grimnir cursed my guys immediately. Their extreme conservatism doesn't help either. Dwarfs do not like new things. They constantly complain about how new dwarfs have it easy, and that mankind is far too unsafe with what it does and how it experiments, and that anything less than 500 years old is unreliable at best. To some extent, this is understandable.
Yeah,
they
I can
live
get
longer
that.
lives and are proud craftsmen. It's undeniable their prototype stages and whatnot would be longer in the name of safety and quality. But most of them will complain almost violently at the slightest sign of someone deviating from how things are supposed to be, at the slightest whiff of a new idea. And yes, sometimes a dwarf engineer will
stubborn.
quietly disappear into a room for a few weeks and come out with this invention he totally found in a basement somewhere and he definitely didn't just create. But by and large, anything like that is heavily shamed. Granted, it isn't 40k tech priest levels of new tech, but more so
that's
you will
pretty
become
bad.
a social pariah. Of course, if your newfangled contraption does go wrong and take dwarf lives, well, the Slayer of Oath is right around the corner for you.
McCason.
I guess to sum up their attitudes is that I'm sure you've read a book or watched a movie or something where if a character would just pull their head out of their ass, they'd be fine. In the case of the dwarfs, you're supposed to be feeling like that all the time because they refuse to pull their head out. On another related note to that last one specifically, the dwarfs also have a pretty hard set time limit on how long they have until they're basically out of the game. They are more advanced than anyone else, and in Gotrek and Felix, there's a book where Felix begins to understand just how far ahead that means when he sees a dwarf train among other things. But technology is something that can be copied, learned, and replicated. The Skaven do that regularly, although that's a bit more questionable a topic, since Skaven engineering is always self-destructive, but mankind? The Empire is beginning its industrial revolution. Had the setting gone on a bit longer, the dwarfs would find themselves slowly but surely falling behind mankind as they eclipse even dwarf technology.
That's
and it's worse
kinda
for
sad.
the dwarfs than the elves, because at least the elves will always be better at magic than most others. Mankind will eventually invent better tech, however, because we do things faster than dwarfs, and then the dwarfs must either radically change their culture or become client states
And they're
to
not
mankind.
gonna change their culture.
And last lore downside is rather meta, because at least in my reading, there are far less dwarf books than there are human or elf books. Now this is a bit deceiving. A lot of books such as Thanquil's have a good amount of point of view moments from dwarfs, and if you count Gotrek and Felix, there are more books about a dwarf character than anyone in
Yes.
Warhammer, 40k included. But for a single sit-down book all about dwarfs, there's certainly less than the other two main good guy factions, which is unfortunate, and certainly deserves a spot in the book for the lack of books. Dwarfs, in terms of getting into the nitty-gritty, don't have too many downsides, at least in what I'm willing to outright say. I'm not smart enough to go, this unit is overcosted by 15 points, and for that reason the dwarf sucks. You know, I'm not good at that sort of thing. However,
Neither
the
am
flip
I.
side of that is that the downsides the dwarfs have are brutal. First off is speed. The average dwarf is rocking up with a movement characteristic of 3 inches, and when you make the Death Guard
Ooh.
look fast, you know you're in for a
Oh,
special
that's
kind
bad.
of hell. Now, the obvious downside is that you're slow as hell. Any kind of scenario involving you running down an enemy is an uphill battle, to say the least. Those miners and their special rule for coming in at the other ends of the table is something I experienced before. The other player put their dwarfs behind my army to presumably try and destroy my archers. I responded by moving my archers every turn, and they never reached me. The only way that kind of thing will ever work is if you as a dwarf player roll great on advance and charge rolls, and your opponent rolls nothing but 1s and 2s to advancing away from you. But this also is a problem based on how the old world specifically works. As the rank and flank game it is, changing the direction of your unit requires movement to do so. So if you improperly position your models, you can spend entire turns doing nothing but awkwardly wheeling units around and then feeling frustrated. Even your gyrocopter and bomber top out at 9 inches of movement, which isn't exactly breaking any speed records,
No.
especially for a flying unit. On the topic of speed, they aren't any faster once the fighting starts, because your initiative scores are universally low across the board. And when I say low, I mean that it's a moment of wonder and awe for a dwarf player when they get to hit at initiative 3 instead of 2. Assume in all instances that you will be fighting last in every single combat encounter, because even Ungrim, the chief slayer and therefore
At
melee
least you're hard
character,
to
only
hit,
has
like,
initiative
you're really
5.
tough.
There are some runes to mitigate this, but they're mitigating it, not turning your dwarf into the Flash. Moving down the list, you have no magical game, which as in lore may be more hindrance than help. While you can dispel enemy spells, and they suffer on casting rolls, that latter part doesn't apply to any magical buffs your enemy provides themselves. An Anvil of Doom does have some runic magic it can use, but the funny thing about that thing is that it doesn't move. Once you put it on the battlefield, it can't move at all, only wheel. So if you want anything resembling magic, you're paying over 200 points minimum for a big brick. Otherwise, just enjoy getting pelted with fireballs while you can do nothing about it. It's also just a shame, you know? You pick the one army that doesn't get to cast spells. You have to just sit back and watch everyone else enjoy entire other phases of the game. You also have no cavalry or monsters, and no, the goddamn king getting carried around on a shield is not cavalry. This is both related to the speed issue and a shame on its own, because it also means you never have the option of an Unga Bunga giant smash monster to throw at the enemy. Having lost most of my old world games, and to dwarfs funnily enough, this isn't the worst hindrance in the world, at least if you're playing against an idiot like myself. But the moments you need a giant or your opponent isn't running theirs like a moron, you're gonna feel it. Special mention must be given to Slayers, however, in spite of how I opened this segment saying I wouldn't get too specific. They are indeed good in melee, but they're still dwarves, so getting to melee is going to take time, and would you like to guess their armor save? Go on, take a guess really quick. Was their answer 0?
Yeah.
If your guess was 0, then congratulations, you're correct.
Mine was
don't
gonna be
have
1.
Slayers are a decent enough distraction unit because once they get into melee, they'll be a problem, but getting into melee is the big sticking point. If your opponent rolls well for hitting and wounding, you kind of just have to accept that Grimnir will be awaiting them sooner than you probably hoped. A shame, because they're the most flavorful unit in a dwarf army, but it is what it is. This one is less of a downside with dwarfs and more of a warning, but I beg of you, just don't fight Tomb Kings. Not because it's a bad matchup, but because unless the Tomb Kings player brings the Scorpion with the funny rule that kills everything that fails an initiative test against it, it's gonna be the most boring match of your life. The first 2 turns of the game will be both of you maneuvering your slow as hell infantry to the fight as both armies waddle across the field. After that, every turn goes as follows. The Tomb King's infantry kill 1 model of Dwarf Warriors. The Dwarf Warriors kill 5 Tomb King skeletons.
They come
the
back.
Lich Priest then resurrects 4 Tomb King skeletons. Rinse and repeat as you and your opponent stare at each other until someone either rolls absurdly well or the Tomb King's player loses his Lich Priest. Unless you really want to recreate the stalemate of trench warfare in a fantasy setting, just don't play that matchup. And their last tabletop downside is me going back on some of the words I said earlier. Most of the dwarf army holds up fine, and I'm not even going to count them all being similar as much of a downside. You want dwarfs, you probably want that uniformity, and there is just enough differences from unit to unit that you can tell what's at least different there. But the models that don't hold up, oh dear lord, do they not hold up. In fact, Slayers get the worst of that, too. Look at those faces and the sculpts in general. I like to think I'm not that much of a model snob, because quite frankly, when people bitch about old world models, I usually just roll my eyes. How dare a rank and flank game not have the most dynamically posed models all looking like they're trying to outcompete each other to see who gets to be on the cover of the next Call of Duty game. But some of these units, yeah, I get it. Maybe it's because I think the rest of the dwarfs are fine, but when something goes wrong here, boy howdy can you see it. Although I make an exception for the Imperial dwarfs. I love my meatball men. How could you not love the meatball men?
I do
Though
like
I certainly
them.
don't love their $53 price tag, though. That one does not get love from me. And those were the dwarfs of Warhammer Fantasy. Grim, resolute, angry little alcoholics that have come to inform you that because your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather slighted their dad, your entire home is now going to burn. Thank you as always to my wonderful channel members. You are the grudges to my dwarfs, giving me the strength and power I need to continue complaining about things that are at least in part my fault. If you'd like to support the channel, feel free to subscribe or become a member. Either way, thank you for watching and take care out there.
That was a good video. I learned a lot about the dwarfs. I have to keep remembering to say it's dwarfs, not dwarves. I forgot partway through dwarfs. But I really do like their lore and like their vibes. It's so hard if I like dwarfs more or elves, but I gotta say it's Legolas. Legolas in the book and the movie, but I saw the movie before I read the book. So yeah, you know, Orlando Bloom, he's a good looking guy, which is why I enjoy the elves significantly more. Sotek will find you if you dwarves them. I'm sure Pancreas will too, to an extent.
Dowie, more like smelly, absolutely got them. Get bent, stunties, your precious beard will never be regrown because the swordmasters will continue to cut it off. Maybe if you wrap some of your books of grudges around your feet, you wouldn't be so short. Idiot, stupid, short. No. I'm not tall enough in real life to be saying this, I don't care. I can't tell if this is...
Wow, you really got him. You really got him, Pank. Stupid, that's dumb. Oh my gosh. That's a good video. So, okay. Has anyone's opinion changed? Do they like dwarves more than they thought they would? Since we started investigating this. Do you like dwarves more? Do you like them less? Tell me. Because I like them more now. They still don't beat the elves, but I have a greater appreciation for them. Short kings, we can't actually rise up, but we will be loud. Okay, that's really good. That's really, really good. That, well said. Oh my gosh. Let's see, where'd YouTube go? There they are. I dislike them still? What? Why do you dislike them? Why? Pancreas just ended up in every dwarf player's grudge book. Well, I think he had reasonable complaints, but even then we did just discuss that they're not always very reasonable people. So there is that. There is that. I think maybe at the last bit at the very end. I mean, yes, there's that too, but I could see them even with the main part of the video being like, can't say that about me. That's not allowed. You can't say that. I have a healthy fear and respect for the dwarfs. Pancreas did manage to bring back some flashbacks to my first ever old world game against my buddy. Oh man, good luck. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Rip your guys. Rip your guys. Holy cow. I can only imagine. I've not played any old world games. I kind of want to. Maybe I'll do something. Do they have stuff on Tabletop Simulator? Because I'm not familiar if they had anything on Tabletop Simulator. Aurelia is now in the book. Man, everyone's in the book. Everyone's in the book. Like, you can't avoid it. You just can't. I think the ears caused Aurelia to be in the book by default. I mean, I could see them disliking me, but I don't think they would necessarily put me in the book just because I have them. Man, you can't catch a break. Can't catch a break around the dwarfs. Not knowing why you're in the book that's going in the book. Everything is in the book. You breathe funny, book. But honestly, that it gives them like such... I love the charm of that. All the gold armor would get you in the book? Why? I feel like they would appreciate the armor. It's not made of gold. That would be dumb. If the armor was actually made of gold, yeah. That's stupid. This is Auramite. Not the same. Yeah, gold is good. Yeah, it's fine. Oh, never pat a dwarf on the head. That's like about as bad as like... That's about as bad as like shaving their beard. Head pats, illegal. You cannot do that. Not allowed. That'd be so bad. No. That just don't do that. Sorry. Whew. I accept the head pats. Okay then. Oh man, here, I'm gonna switch the screen. Oh, I'm super zoomed in. Hello, chat. Put my halo back on. Yeah, Aurelia jump scare. I'm all up in your face. Oh man, that was good. Okay, please go follow Pancreas. He does great stuff. So go follow his YouTube channel. He makes the good videos. Like, comment, and subscribe. I think I'll go comment on the video about Skaven Society, and I'll make a comment about Stim, because that was really funny. I really enjoyed that. I think we will raid out tonight on the Twitch side, but thank you guys for joining me. I'm making the schedule tonight, but there will be a stream tomorrow. I think we're gonna play Ultra Kill. We're gonna play some Ultra Kill, so schedule's gonna be weird. It's gonna be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm pretty sure. I've got stuff over this next weekend, so it's like, it's a shame I can't stream over the weekend, but we will be streaming the next couple days. So you know, you get like 4 straight days. You almost get a whole week if only I didn't take a break on Tuesday, but it'll be really good. So we go raid. Let me see. I think I found someone that I think will be fun. Let me take a quick peek. Okay, good. Let's see. I think in the spirit of talking about getting a 3D model, I have found a VTuber who is debuting a new 3D model, I think. And I think she's doing confessions with her chat. It sounds like fun. It sounds like a good time. So we're gonna do that. So please behave in the chat, please. Thank you for those of you who joined me today. Please don't skip leg day. It's really important that you do leg day. Oh, did I miss any other leg day redeems? Shoot, did I miss any? Anyways, we're gonna hurry up so I don't have to do any more leg stuff. I already did leg day. So we're gonna hurry up and do that before anything pops up. It's gotta go. Oh no, my screen is going, dang it. Okay, I will do, sorry, I will do them. I will do squats. Because it makes sense, we should do the squats. Hang on, 1 sec. You get your 10 squats. Oh gosh, my legs. Alright, no wait, because it's gonna take time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, all right, we're going. It's raid time. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Don't skip leg day, and I will see you later.